When I close my eyes, I can almost see it. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs. And if my mind worked backwards just for a minute, I'd hold on to you before the memory's gone. I remember you, you lift my spirit. With you high is all I'm feeling. Remember how we felt alive. I remember you, you make me stronger. Can't go without it much longer. Remember, I remember you, you lift my spirit. With you high is all I'm feeling.
Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of ADV Podcast. We're on episode
54.
54, wow. And we have an important one for you today. Is
As
the
always.
audio okay, guys? Does that...
It's fine.
It's fine? Good. Well, apologies for that. You know, it's these lovely new microphones.
It's actually not their fault at all.
No,
These
no,
things
it's
are
not.
awesome.
They are. Anyway, guys, we have a very important one. So many things have happened in the last week or so with regards to China. It's been a shit show. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to cover in this episode.
Very
we're
much
just
so.
going to jump straight into it. So here we're going to go straight into what's new.
Who says that?
Where
Let's
we
just jump into it.
Some guy. Philly cheesesteak
Yeah,
or something.
that's right.
Guys, anyway, we are now we are talking about what's new. So this is
Hey,
kind
we're
of whatever
fat too.
yeah, whatever's new in China with regards to China. So let's take a look. We have something here in the background we want to talk about. Remember Wolf Warrior? Now, Wolf Warrior is a term. We call them turd warriors, wolf wankers, that kind of thing here on the show. But the Wolf Warrior is something that came from a very famous Chinese movie. It's actually a Chinese name for
It's
a
called
kind of
Wolf Warrior.
Yeah, well, the movie's called Wolf Warrior, and Wolf Warrior was the first sort of big patriotic movie to ever make it mainstream, I could say, because there are billions of patriotic TV shows, especially the anti-Japanese ones that you see every day on TV. You got millions of those, and you've got tons of patriotic
Millions.
things all the time on TV. But this was the big, like, Hollywood equivalent that kind of went out there to the world, and everyone in China was super proud and nationalistic about this movie because it proved China was strong. And Wolf Warrior 2 in particular, the first one wasn't really paid attention to.
No.
It was the second one because they went off to foreign lands to like beat up foreigners.
Yeah,
that
they
were-
had like the token black kid.
Yeah, I
Remember, he had
remember.
like a little black sidekick. They
Yeah.
made sure to do that to promote the friendship between Africa and China.
Yeah.
That was a huge propaganda thing.
Yeah.
It was such a shit movie. We've tortured ourselves with it twice now.
Yeah, not a good movie to watch.
We'll be having drinks or whatever, and we're kind of into some sadomasochism or something because it's
Watching
so
that.
bad. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's also hilariously bad.
It's hilariously bad, and it shows you a lot of the attitude that modern day China has towards the rest of the world if you watch
Right.
that movie, because it was so well received and became kind of like a symbol of. It became the Wakanda of China, if that makes any sense. This
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
this is our movement going forward. This is our identity.
Except it was a political identity. Wakanda was more of a racial thing. It was
Yeah.
like a political thing. It's like, we support the CCP. We are Chinese. And that represents
Yeah.
that red star, the red flag with the 5 yellow stars. That represents ourself.
And it really was about how like China goes and deals with foreigners who mess with them type thing. There's a big patriotic, nationalistic thing built into it. Anyway, so it's Chinese people themselves that coined this term Wolf Warrior politics, right? So you got these politicians that go out there and they, use this point of strength to basically talk down to the rest of the world. And that's what they love doing, is they'll go and say, oh yeah, we Chinese are strong. We're not going to listen to your crap anymore. You think you can tell us what to do? Well, what about that time you did this? That kind of thing.
Right.
So it's about a lot of whataboutism. It's a lot of
Next time on
nonsense.
Whataboutism.
Yeah, and it's a lot of crass, very underhanded things that they say. Not diplomatic at all.
Yeah. Well, it's the opposite of that, yeah.
So it's comes as a very big surprise when you see over here from Global Times, as we all know, Chinese state-affiliated media. In fact, it is the English sort of mouthpiece. They have a Chinese version too.
Yeah.
But this is an official mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party. And it said, in their opinion piece, this was allowed to pass and be published worldwide. Says,
Yes.
the West's depiction of China's direct diplomacy as being wolf warrior is clearly racist. Okay.
If the Curb Your Enthusiasm song could be China's theme song, well, the Chinese government's theme song, it would be so apt. Absolutely. It would just be so correct.
How could it be racist when it's a term that they made up themselves?
It's from a movie that is from China, and then they coined it for their own diplomats like Zhao Lijian and Hua Chunying. They used that themselves because they were proud of it until we started making fun of it.
Yeah.
Until we started making fun of, what the hell? You're calling your diplomats wolf warriors?
Yeah.
Number one, that movie is considered cringe around the world, and everyone laughed at it. They thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Number two, you don't send a diplomat out there to go cause waves and stir shit. That's not what a diplomat does.
No, that's the opposite of diplomacy, really.
You acted like a 12-year-old child, and then the rest of the world started making fun of you, like us, and calling you guys turd warriors and wolf wankers. And then all of a sudden you turn around within the same day.
Yeah.
This article on the left,
Yeah.
it says the West's depiction of China's direct diplomacy as being wolf warrior is clearly racist. That one on the right, that's from the same day.
And the same newspaper.
And the same newspaper.
And it says, China's wolf warrior diplomacy in Alaska meeting impresses world.
Let me read an excerpt from the racism article.
Okay.
It says, the West's depiction of China's direct diplomacy as being wolf warrior is clearly racist, some observers argued. Why? Because such a mentality assumes that we have no right to respond to bullying and unilateralism by Western countries that hurt China's national interests. Your government made it up.
And
they
also,
created it.
We're talking about diplomats and a government here, so how is it racist? Because we're not talking about a race of people here. When we say these wolf warriors, we're talking about these specific diplomats of a specific government, okay, who are trying to push all these bullshit policies and this nastiness on the world. We're not talking about a race of people here. So how is it racist? You see, everybody, the Chinese government has once again co-opted this whole PC culture, and they use it against the only people it works on, which is the West. PC culture doesn't work anywhere else. You know, you can complain to China about them being racist and stuff. Do you think they care? Nope. Not an iota. Neither does Saudi Arabia, or neither does Africa, or anywhere, really. If you say, hey, we don't like, you're racist if you say this about us, they'll be like, I don't give a crap, you know, continue on. It's only in the West where you're like, it's racist to call us this, and guess what? The West falls apart and shakes at the knees and is like, oh, what, racist? Me? No, not at all. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. And they know it works, and that's why they make these ridiculous claims that calling people wolf warriors is racist.
Well, it inspired us to just go through a bunch of stuff like this, because they do this all the time. It's an overreaction to stuff, and it's a way of them getting Western sensibilities all tied up in, am I being racist? Hold on, let me continue a couple quotes here.
Okay, a couple quotes before we get on to that next one.
She says, can one imagine a certain group of people in Western society, like the U.S., not being allowed to speak up and stand up to defend their own legitimate interests? Isn't that purely racism and a kind of white supremacy? Hold on a second. So in America, where people do have the right to speak up, and every group has the potential of being represented equally, legally, right?
Sure.
She's saying, can you imagine the hypocrisy of that? Can you imagine that in the U.S.? Well, we can't imagine that in the U.S. because everyone is represented equally on legal terms, right?
Yeah.
So to use that as an example, doesn't that, I'm talking to the author of this, doesn't that seem a little hypocritical? You're talking about a country that does suppress any voice, does suppress any dissenting opinion, and doesn't allow their citizens to speak up.
Yeah.
So what are you defending here? American ideology? I truly don't get it. And how is that white supremacy? Because again, your government made up wolf warrior.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah. No, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Anyway.
America is the only country in the world where everybody does have a voice, you know, and loud voices. Do you think minorities in America don't have a voice? Well, then you haven't seen the news, because every time you turn on the news, that's the main thing that's being focused on most of the time, is the voices of the minorities, the Black Lives Matter movements, the LGBTQ movements, the everything. No other country in the world has so much focus on minority voices. So it's kind of rich coming from China, who makes just make sure that minorities have no voice at all.
Right.
So, anyway, just wanted to point that out. Now,
sure.
Are we going to bring on the little human rights thing?
Oh, sure.
That's kind of interesting. Do you want to go through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So this is a human rights abuses report
Right.
from the Chinese government. It says the EU's misdeed on human rights. So we're talking about the European Union.
Yeah.
The European Union, an alliance of countries within Europe, and it is
Sure.
a modern phenomenon.
It is modern, yeah.
It did not exist
That's why
historically.
we have the euro and all that.
Yes, it did not happen when, the European countries were at war with each other.
No,
There was no union.
No, there was no European Union.
The European Union has this very iconic flag, which is the stars in a circle shape on the blue background.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the EU is now being represented by China in terms of human rights abuses as what happened in Hitler's Germany.
Yeah, they say racism. This is the EU's misdeeds on human rights. Okay, the first heading they have is racism. They say 6 million Jews were massacred during the WW2 by Nazi Germany. Rest in peace. There's all grave there. More than 100,000 natives in Namibia were killed by German colonists in 1908. 1908.
We're going to come back to that very famous year
And then
in a
they're like,
second.
Finnish parliamentarians have repeatedly made hateful remarks against people of African descent and Muslims. Okay, this is the racism thing. Okay, and there's still more. Muslims in Sweden are subject to, what? is that?
Pre-trial.
Oh, pre-trial, extended detention, and other unfair treatment. So, according to China, the EU's human rights abuses includes the Holocaust.
Yes.
Stuff that happened in 1908.
Yes.
And some random remarks by the Finnish parliamentarians. I just don't understand how they could be that stupid to think that the EU existed in 1908 or that the EU somehow contained Nazi Germany.
The thing is that the Chinese government operates like this. It shows its own lack of understanding because of the way that it's structured. Somebody told somebody, we need to put out this EU human rights abuse thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. They kick it down the line, kick it down the line, kick it down the line to the point where all meaning is lost.
Sure.
And then they're like, oh, looks good. I have no idea. They don't understand what they're talking about.
No.
But this date, 1908, is going to come back really soon.
Oh, it's going to come back super soon.
Just thought that this is
Let's go through just a couple more here.
Sure.
Freedom of speech. Peaceful demonstrators have been injured through disproportionate use of force by police in EU countries. Really? That's interesting. Well, I mean, every country around the world, we can point to that. I mean, let's just maybe talk about what happens in South American countries, African countries, China itself. You ever seen what happens when the people protest about their lands being grabbed? Have you seen force being used there? I certainly have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, it goes on and on. Gender inequality, migrants' rights. Migrants' rights. China doesn't even allow migrants to come into China.
No.
What do you mean? There's no rights for migrants in China. Imagine you go into China and you try to become a citizen or something. It's not possible. Even if you went the legitimate route, like we're married to Chinese citizens, we can't become a freaking citizen there.
No.
You know, it's impossible. You can't become a Chinese citizen.
No.
It's just, there are no migrant rights in China. So again, it's super rich, the way that China's been flexing its muscles. And again, for some reason, they think that the world is blind, and maybe the world is blind to what China's doing. So it's like any other bully. He's like stealing your lunch and stuff, and he's like, oh, look at this person. He stole a grape from me. Meanwhile, he stole all the lunch from everybody, and someone took one grape, and he's like, look, they stole a grape. Call the police. That kind of thing. It's such a stupid ass
Well,
thing.
it's a criminal basically trying to pass the blame.
Yeah,
Is what's happening here.
exactly.
But it's the severe lack of understanding which makes this so cringe.
Yeah.
But this actually goes into our next topic.
Yeah.
We're on a bit of a roll when we were digging this stuff up, and we had to go hark back to some old hilarity.
Oh yeah. You wanna hit that?
Might as well. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, we can.
Let's just hit it. Okay, so guys, we have a little video that we want to show you here, and we'll discuss it as it goes on. So
This is Dalata, which is a place I used to live right next to in Inner Mongolia province.
I'd like you to pay attention to how green and
Right.
amazing it is over
Yes. And this is actually what it looks
there.
like.
Yeah, this is a picture you took yourself.
I took this. It's literally in exactly the same place that video was shot.
Sure.
Dalata is very small. There's our bikes there, and this is the promotional footage for it again.
Yeah, I'd like everyone to pay attention to the colors in this image because it looks like it's been painted on or it's been photoshopped to be green.
Sure.
Okay, and it's just the saturation. Look at that man's face. Look at it. Look at that. That's now anyone who knows anything about editing or photographs or anything. You know that you can make a place look a little nicer if you up the saturation. which is obviously what's being done here to an extreme degree.
I'm telling you, I've been to Dalata. I'm taking these photos. It's literally a desert wasteland.
Yeah.
It's a terrible place.
Yeah.
It's hideous.
Yeah. So
Now, this is a more realistic representation of Dalata.
bring that saturation down a little bit. You know?
Yeah, you got to bring the satch down.
But we
now
can.
the reason, sorry, I want to explain why we did this.
Okay,
the reason
go
why I'm bringing this up is that go back to the brown guy. I just love the saturation there.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't a video I did. I want to do a little bit of a follow up on this because of some of the ridiculous stuff that we've come across recently.
Yeah.
And it really ties together with today's topic, and that's slavery with the Uyghurs.
Yeah.
And all the soft power that's coming out from China right now about the Uyghur genocide in Xinjiang.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen the government do stuff like this because they have to, basically the structure of the government is somebody has to promote this area or promote something, an ideology or whatever within the Communist Party of China, but they can't make it look like crap.
No.
So they have to just go all in. And with
All
this
in.
Dalata thing, you see just the most ridiculous use of saturation you've ever done in your life.
Yeah.
So we corrected that. But we came across this town that we used to ride through in Guangdong.
I've made plenty of videos. You've made plenty of
Yeah.
videos there. It's called Heyuan. Here it
Yeah.
is. Now, if you look at this promotional video for Heyuan, you would think it's like on the coast. Okay?
Yeah.
Take a look. They're like, oh, evergreen Hakka city of Heyuan. They show the water. And my favorite part, I was actually editing a video and you saw this and you were like, what the hell's going on here? Dolphins in Heyuan? They're like, they literally say, Heyuan is connected to the sea and all that.
Right.
And it's beautiful. It's like the source of water for Guangdong and stuff. Now, there's a massive reservoir there. But let's just take a look here. It takes 4 hours and 16 minutes to drive on a National G road from Heyuan to the sea.
Yes.
To like the closest beach, really.
Right.
And if you want to say that there are dolphins there, you're just a massive liar.
Well, not only did China kill all of the Yangtze river dolphins.
Yeah. No, but
Right.
I mean, they wouldn't be able to make it up there because the only way that
Yalu.
that dolphins could ever make it up to Heyuan is if they went in that big Pearl River Delta tributary up there and they went through Dongguan, which you would not make it through Dongguan because it's so polluted and so over-industrialized there. Through Dongguan, through Huizhou, all the way up through this tiny little
You obviously
river.
haven't heard of the great dolphin migration of 166 kilometers through freshwater.
I guess not. But, it's just kind of ridiculous that they make these outlandish claims. And this is Heyuan, you can see in the background.
This is actually what Heyuan looks like.
This
is
is
us riding in there.
riding around in Heyuan. That's what it really looks like. It's not some utopian seaside village. It's got a beautiful big reservoir with nice roads around it,
Sure.
which we love riding around. I used to. But, it just goes to show, if you don't know what's going on in China, if you're not down there on the ground, so to speak, in China, if you haven't been there, then you wouldn't actually understand.
You also won't see Atlantic Ocean
Yeah, but that's the thing.
dolphins.
You would take it at face value because you'd be like, "Hey, look,
I made it to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, quite honestly, you would just look at this promotional material and say, "Wow, it looks beautiful over there. It looks like it's part of the sea. There's dolphins there. They
Yeah.
talk about all the Hakka culture and stuff in that thing, and they show this completely unrealistic image of what the place looks like. And we're starting to see this a lot with Xinjiang,
Yeah.
where they're putting out this absolutely absurd utopian-looking place. Oh yeah, so you helped them
Okay,
because they
so I
dropped the
helped
ball.
them. Yeah, pause this real quick.
Yeah, I will.
We'll go back a little bit. I was fishing around for the new soft power that they're putting out about Xinjiang. So they're basically, what's happening is China's trying to say there's no forced labor in Xinjiang, there's no genocide, there's no concentration camps. All of this is Western bullshit and lies. They're literally apologizing for themselves and the way that they treat millions of Uyghurs within China. Forced sterilization, rape, torture, murder.
Yeah.
Now, in all of their soft power episodes where they have a camera crew following around all these Uyghurs saying like, oh, our lives are amazing, I realized they didn't do enough saturation like the other promotional
No,
campaign.
so here, Simo decided to help them.
I would help. I just figured I'd help out a little bit.
Yeah, so, let's take
It's
this.
too drab.
Yeah, there we go. Now that's more up to the Chinese standards of propaganda right
Looks
there.
really
Doesn't it look
good
so
now.
much better now?
Much better now.
Anyway.
So that is going to lead us into, we thought it was a little funny excerpt on how soft power propaganda is so chabudoa and bullshit in China, but it does get much more grim because right now what's happening is that China is facing real actual backlash.
For the first time.
Finally.
And it's got to do with cotton picking Uyghurs.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're going... That really didn't come out very well. I'm sorry.
Uyghurs who pick cotton.
Yes, the Uyghur minority who pick cotton. What we're going to do, everybody, is we're going to go into our main segment. Are we going to have a super chat or?
Let's just go into it.
We're just going into it today. We'll answer all your questions, don't you worry.
In a minute.
Soft Power Hour, where we talk about the ways China is basically controlling the way you think, and through all their different means, through media and the press, and
Sure.
in your country, in your universities, whatever. And we're talking about something very specific here. Let's take a look again at one of our favorite wolf warriors, wolf wankers, toad warriors, Hua Chunying.
Now, just I don't want to reiterate. I want to say that if you're not familiar, Xinjiang is the westernmost province in China. Mm-hmm. It is full of not Chinese people.
Sure.
It's full of Uyghur people.
Yes.
Uyghur people are not Chinese. They don't speak Chinese. Well, they can learn it, but they don't speak Chinese as their native tongue. They don't look Chinese. They have different food, different culture, different
Sure.
religion. Everything's different, right?
Yeah.
And China needs them to become part of the Han majority because China hates minorities. Mainland China despises ethnic minorities unless they become fully assimilated, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
very inclusive, not non-inclusive.
Look, when we say hate, you have to understand that traveling around China, whenever we would get into a minority area, they would always be... they're treated as kind of like a funny pet or a tourist attraction, right? And so they dress them up. They've got to be dressed up in their little clothes and stuff, and they build these fake villages of what they're supposed to have looked like and stuff. And from that point of view, they like it because it's a
novelty.
It's a novelty. But as foreigners traveling into the real minority areas, you're never allowed to stay in the hotels in and around those areas because they don't want you to see the dissatisfaction and the unrest, because a lot of the people, nobody wants to be forced to give up their traditions and their religions and their culture.
And language.
Yeah, and their language, which is what China does. It is, the Chinese government really does want everybody to be the same. And it works to a very, very large degree because you can travel from one area in the south of China, and I've said this 100,000 times to people like Seamilk, if you knocked me out in Guangdong in the south of China, and you took me all the way up into Dongbei and chucked me in the middle of a normal everyday village, or city, I should say, city or town, not a village, a city or a town, and I woke up, I wouldn't know that I'd gone anywhere because the signs are all the same. The fashions are all the same. The way everything is, the buildings look the same. The kind of shops that you get are all the same. And that's what the Chinese government wants, is they want conformity and uniformity. And that comes with everything. And that includes culture and religion and worship of the Communist Party of China. And that's why they try to get rid of anyone that butts up against that. And of course, the Uyghurs, being Muslim, they have a strong religion and they have different traditions, different languages, which they don't want to willingly give up so easily. And that's why we have the situation.
It would be like you, if you're an English speaker, you're not allowed to speak English anymore. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to learn it. You're not allowed to teach it to your kids.
And you're not allowed to go to church if you're Christian.
Yes, yeah.
And
it's the same thing.
And they start knocking down the churches, to stop you from going there and arresting you if you gather.
It's important that we remove religion from this as well because it's not about religion.
No.
I think a lot of people are like, gosh darn, I love that they're getting rid of them Muslims. You get people like that.
Obviously.
It's even if you are that pig-headed and dumb, right?
Right.
Even if you hold a belief like that, it's much deeper than that. China doesn't necessarily care about the religious aspect. What they care about is the fact that these people are not Chinese, and they need them to become like Chinese people.
They also don't want people worshiping something other than the party.
Of course, that's a thing.
I mean,
of course, that's with all religions in China.
It's the way it is. You have to worship the party. Pictures of Chairman Xi are up in the walls in the school. You have to sing the national anthem every day. You have to spout party rhetoric all the time. It is all about your life must be dedicated to the greater good of China and the party.
Right.
That's what they want. So if you've got people who have, God or some other religion that they put above the party, that's a no-no. And that's a big reason why this has been so aggressive in Xinjiang. It's because they've just bumped into some very religious people.
It's true, but the Hui Muslims don't. They are totally fine. Because they are Chinese. Yeah. China doesn't care as much about the religious aspect as they do about the identity aspect.
Anyway, we wanted to point out our wolf warrior friend over here, Hua Chunying. What has she done now? Because
so this is a wolf wanker.
We actually need to give a little bit of a background here. Sorry. Just very recently, a bunch of big companies have put out some concern. Like Nike, H&M. They've been like, listen, We're a little concerned that some of the cotton might be coming from Xinjiang. We don't want to use Xinjiang cotton because we're concerned about forced labor. And this is...
It's true, though. I mean, it's
absolutely, no. I mean, we know that's the case. But because the companies have put out very innocuous statements, it wasn't even like Nike, for instance. They went out of their way to try and not blame China in any way, shape or form, or the Chinese government. It still sparked off massive boycotts and protests now. People are like burning their Nikes and stuff.
We'll go through that.
Yeah, we will. But the whole point is, cotton has become the focus of this whole thing right now. So what does the wolf wanker do over here? She says, hashtag Mississippi in 1908.
They don't know how to use hashtags.
No.
Why? Who's searching hashtag Mississippi?
I don't know, but it seems, look, even the CCP sycophants love their hashtags.
They
I think
do.
it's part of the playbook.
It is.
Hashtag Mississippi in 1908 versus hashtag Xinjiang in 2015. A shotgun and several hounds versus smiles and harvests. Forced labor? Question mark. Why 2015, by the way? Why not like 2020?
Why not now?
Yeah.
Why 1908 post Civil War?
Maybe they were happy before they all got put in the concentration camp, because 2015 they were still doing it, but it wasn't as bad as today.
So I mean, is this what she's going for here? Because this could be done with really anything. Are you telling me this is a Communist Party of China photo? By the way,
yeah, it is a PR photo that's completely staged.
Look at the happy Uyghurs. It's this whole narrative that China does. Our 56 ethnic minorities live in harmony and peace together, hand in hand. We are a family. Yeah. We are like the seeds of a pomegranate.
Yeah.
You could do this with anything.
Yeah.
Watching Ying. If you want to be a tasteless biatch about this, okay, we'll play that game.
Yeah, we thought we'd throw in our own little thing over here to show that this type of thing is very easy to do. Okay, why don't we just change it around and put some bullshit picture of happy slaves?
Look at how happy the slaves are.
Yeah.
I bet if you went back and asked the slaves and said, "Are you happy with your life?" They'd be like, "Yes, I love not receiving money and getting whipped.
Yeah.
And being an indentured servant to a master."
Yeah, exactly. So now it's just smiles and harvests, right?
Oh my gosh,
smiles
look
and
at
harvests.
that.
Yeah.
By the way, slavery was banned by 1908. Well before that. So it's an interesting photo she decided to choose.
Did you know that China only banned slavery in 1910?
Yes.
Was it 1910? And it actually only stopped being enforced. Well, it stopped being a real thing in about 1949. So
Right.
China had
but,
slavery.
But that's only on paper, because Chairman Mao made that a thing. There's going to be no more slaves. Even in the Chinese national anthem, it says "Bu yuan zuo nu li de renmin," like all those who refuse to be slaves. But that was just because that was Chairman Mao's paper.
Yeah.
In reality, indentured servitude still happens today.
So you see, what we're doing now is we're doing what's called whataboutism,
Yes.
which is what the Chinese government does with everything. And you saw that exactly here, what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, you think I did something bad? Well, you did something worse. But in this case, it's actually true. Slavery was a thing. So we thought we'd go back to around about 1908 and look at some pictures from China.
The bullshit year she decided post-Civil War, after it was already banned.
Yeah, exactly. So this picture that you see behind us, we thought, you know what was still going on around about 1908? These men that you see behind you with the stockades around them, that was in around about 1910, 12, thereabouts. No, I not that specific photo, I don't know, but I do know what's about to happen to one of them, and that is what's called death by 1,000 cuts. We're not going to show you any pictures. Absolutely not. If you want nightmares for the rest of your life, you can go and search death by 1,000 cuts photos. There are real photos taken in about 1913, thereabouts.
Yeah.
And some even later than that, of this disgusting, torturous method that was going on in China during that time. And that is like this horrific practice where people would be tied to a pole and slowly little bits of their flesh cut off and basically cut death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
They cut off their nipples, cut off their arms, cut off their genitalia, cut off their ears, cut off their noses, cut off, slowly cutting them to death while they're still alive. And it's a big public spectacle. That was going on at the same time that this plantation photo with the dogs and the
those are hunting
shotguns.
dogs, by the way. There's not
So, I mean, it just goes to show, you can go down this road. If you really want to talk about the past as if it's the present, we can do that, but it's not. We all know that death by 1,000 cuts kind of stopped.
Yeah.
In the sort of 1910s was the last time.
Well, that's what makes this argument such ridiculous bullshit.
Just like slavery and cotton-picking slavery in the West stopped back in, the end of the Civil War and stuff, and was eventually completely phased out. But now it's happening in real time. in China right now. So this whole comparison thing about slaves and stuff is just absolute garbage. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
we just thought we'd watching you. We thought we would use your 12-year-old. I literally feel like that's a 12-year-old child.
Yes.
I mean, this CCB often acts like a petulant 12-year-old child, as we saw in the Alaska talks, which we'll talk about later. But
yeah.
her logic is maybe what you dream up when we were going to sleep when you're a 12-year-old and you're laying there thinking about what you're going to say to the bully the next day. That's like the logic that she uses. Yeah. Oh, yeah? Look at these smiling Uyghurs from 2015 that the government took a photo of.
Yeah, and I don't know why 2015.
Like, again, yeah.
Couldn't they get one from 2020? Probably not, because there are
Or one from 1908.
Yeah, that's it's like
maybe that would be more apt.
This is the government that we're dealing
Yes.
with. This is the world's next big superpower.
The problem is biting. It's really really kicking them in the ass right now, because the more they push like this. I mean, if you read any commentary about that post, everyone's like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
you idiot."
Sure.
It's not for the domestic populace anymore, because Chinese people would eat that up because of the brainwashing.
Yeah.
But the Western world isn't going to change their mind because of a post like that. When Xi Jinping decided wolf warrior tactics was a thing that he was going to do in his regime, it was the worst thing they could have done, dude.
Because it's just laid bare for the world to see, what their real motivations are, and the real face of China. The true face of China is what you're seeing right now. And by China, I mean
of course,
the
government's
CCP.
ambitions, yes.
It's just like when people say USA bombs a country,
blah, blah.
or whatever. It's not like the people or anything. It's the government. Anyway, I always have to make that clear, because for some reason people are dumb.
We have to.
So this is now what's going on. We're starting to see people say, "I support Xinjiang cotton. H&M, get out of China."
So because of what Winston was explaining with these companies saying we're probably not going to support Xinjiang cotton because it's gathered with slave labor, right? Like modern day slave labor. They're like, well, maybe we shouldn't deal with that anymore, right?
Sure.
It's fairly innocuous. But now the whole country has been just frenzied up into a fervor. The government is trying to make everyone go ape and say, screw these companies. How dare they ban Xinjiang cotton because of slave labor? We support Uyghur genocide.
Pretty much.
That's where we're at.
Now, for all of you out there that perhaps doubt the whole forced labor thing. Okay, let's just say you do doubt it, and you're like, no, I'm sure they're all getting paid a fair wage and everything's fine and whatever. Just because you doubt it doesn't mean it's true, not true, first of all. But the whole point is, when you're a multinational company, okay, and allegations of something horrible comes up, okay, child labor or forced labor or whatever it is, you have to play it on the safe side. You can't be like, hey, listen, we keep hearing about the fact that this cotton is coming from forced labor. We keep hearing about these concentration camps. There's lots of evidence coming out. Whether it's 100% proven or not, we should err on the side of caution just in case it's true, all right? And that's what these companies have been doing. And rightly so. You should not be involved with anything that could possibly be,
never mind
helping forced labor.
Never mind the advertisements and documents that come out saying we can provide thousands of Uyghur people for you for free of charge. You pay us, and they'll work for you.
But what I'm doing
never mind that.
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I get it.
From the point of view of someone who denies that this is happening,
sure,
and doesn't believe that there's forced labor going on in China, by the Uyghurs. You still have to understand that a company has to play it safe, right, until things have been proven otherwise. So these companies are playing it safe, and they've been very, very careful with their wording about, we'd rather not for now because there might be a this and that type thing, being very nice and trying to swim through all this stuff. But they still get hammered so hard by the Chinese government, who whips up the Chinese populace in this nationalist frenzy every time something doesn't go their way, that it also just proves to all companies around the world that this is not a market you want to be in.
No.
This is not a market that you want to be a slave to. Because if you are pandering to the Chinese market, then you will have to, at some point, drop your morals 100% in order to continue to be a part of that market.
Right.
So what else is being done now with all these
keep scrolling through.
boycotts and stuff? Yeah, let me figure out where everything is here. All right.
People are burning their Nikes because Nike said we're not going to use slave labor cotton anymore in our products.
Actually, you know what I saw something interesting. Someone said that H&M and Nike are becoming accidental martyrs.
Yeah.
Because Nike has no morals.
No.
Rarely.
No.
Okay.
Sweatshops out the wazoo.
Nike, NBA, all those people, they pander to China all the time. They're just like, oh my God, did we say something wrong? We're so sorry. Oh, we must be racist or something. They do that all the time. But there's no getting out of it this time.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Hopefully they learn a lesson. And also, I think it's really dumb to burn your own shoes because you're a moron. You pay your own money for that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, yeah, I mean, we've seen that before. It's
We
see
have with
what's
iPhones,
going on.
right? Okay, so I want to throw this out there. So Chinese government is promoting super hard that everyone boycotts these companies, right?
Yeah.
They're like, please do it. They're really happy people are burning their shoes. They're promoting that all over the internet. They're like, if you want to be a nationalist, you need to buy Li Ning and like all our Chinese companies,
Yeah,
right?
our Chinese companies, yeah.
So it's getting people riled up, just like
Sure.
the anti-Japan protests. People are going out there, they're like F H&M, F Nike, all this kind of stuff. But unfortunately in China, because protesting and demonstrations are illegal, even that will get you arrested. As we can see in this clip here, there's a woman. She has a sign that she's protesting H&M within a mall, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is in promotion of the CCP's rhetoric.
Yeah.
She's promoting the CCP's ideology, saying
She's
that-
just going along with it. But
along with it, yeah.
obviously what's happened here is the mall security and it's looked like Baoan and police. That's a
And
police
police, there's
uniform,
police,
yeah.
yeah.
They've been called to be like, hey, listen, this woman's like causing trouble in front of our store. But
Right.
what she's doing is she's doing what the Chinese government wants.
Right.
She's
But it
pushing forward
shows
that
you.
message.
I mean, it's just this is cue the Curb Your Enthusiasm music, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, even if you really want to get in there and be super communist and super authoritarian and promote the CCP, you still can't cause a scene because it's illegal.
Yeah.
You can't do this kind of stuff in China, and that's the irony. To go back to the original thing in that Global Times article,
Yeah.
how would Americans feel if they couldn't stand up for what they believed in and have a voice?
Yeah, how would they
this is
feel?
your voice, China.
Yeah.
This is when
you know how
watch
they'd feel?
Shills-
You know how Americans would feel if they
Oh.
couldn't have a voice? They'd feel like Chinese people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they'd feel.
This is what when the shills, like the pro CCP shill YouTubers out there that you guys probably know who I'm talking about, when they
Yeah.
go and say China is more free than America, this is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You can't even promote your own country's values at that
No,
point.
no, you can't. So you can't hold up a little sign and say like, "Don't support H&M" because we
We need to support
you know our China.
country,
We must
our,
we need to support our China and our
we need our genocide.
Yeah, we need to support our genocide. Yeah.
They
See,
take
this
it
is what
down.
happens
That's a
to
real
you.
cop right there.
Yeah. Now you can see by their uniforms, it's sometimes quite difficult in China
Sure.
because even like low-level security guards will wear police, like they'll
Surplice,
have, it's surplus, and it will say police on it and everything. But that
True.
guy, you
That
can
was a
tell
police officer.
by his little lapels and
Yes.
all that he's properly police. Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought that was a rich irony. So this is a Hong Kong meme that's going around.
Yeah.
And this actually says that you need to stop supporting these Western brands, right?
Yeah.
These Waiguap brands. So we got Zara, H&M, Kappa, Puma, Adidas, Nike, New Balance, Uniqlo, Burberry, Muji, Under Armour, and Jordan, right?
Yeah.
And these most of these brands again are accidental martyrs. They're not
Sure.
they're not brands that took a stand against
No,
this.
no.
They're just being thrown under the bus because the Chinese government's like F this.
Mm.
So they said if you want to be Aigua, if you want to be nationalist, these are the brands that you should support. And these are actual rip-off, knockoff Chinese brands.
Yeah, exactly.
You may think this is a joke. These are not a joke.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening at home, we've got all the brands, very popular brands, and then we have the Chinese equivalents underneath the knockoff brands, H and N, NKIE instead of... Remember I had those sandals, the
You
NKIE
did.
sandals,
You
remember?
did.
I actually
I've
had
seen
those.
most of these.
Yeah.
New Barloon.
New Barloon. Again, New Balance is one of the most ripped off companies. I've put it in my videos a lot, but there was...
New Barloon's the king now.
Yeah,
of the
but
rip-offs.
I would walk... There's one particular video that I made where I
Right.
walked in one street and there was something like 6 different New Balance knockoffs on the same street.
Some of them had numbers in it.
Yeah,
and shit,
it's
right?
crazy. Natural Mill.
Uncle Martian.
Yes.
Under Armour's Uncle
Yeah,
Martian.
instead of Under Armour, it's Uncle Martian. They're using the same logos with a slight variant. Natural Mill.
Bane Bear.
Zare instead of Zara.
Sorry, yeah.
Abby
Adidas.
Bass instead of Adidas. They just changed the D's to B's.
Yes.
Miniso. And in Japanese there, it says May Soul. Yeah, May Soul instead of
I've
Uniqlo.
seen Miniso.
Yeah, I thought it was... I really
I thought that was a
it
legitimate thing.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Holy crap.
Because I thought it was the Japanese thing because it looks exactly the same,
Right.
Anyway, you get the idea. They've got
Yes.
Chowdan instead of Jordan. They've got Banbury instead of Burberry.
Yeah.
And Puma is Puma, but just with... They've moved
they moved the Puma on
Puma
the
to
other
their
side.
Yeah. Napa instead of Kappa.
Napa cabbage.
I mean, it's hilarious the stuff you do see, like
Yeah.
Piano Boy instead
Piano
of
Boy is one of my
Playboy and
faves.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, guys, in China, these brands, whenever they get called out and they get taken to court, they win because
Yeah.
China is very
Most of the time.
protectionist. I'd say the majority of
Yeah.
the time. That's why they can still exist. Like
Yeah.
New Banren. They use the same design
New
language,
Banren.
everything.
Xin Bailun.
Yeah, I know, Xin Bailun. Anyway, so now...
So let me preface this.
you
So
preface this, yeah.
you kind of understand what's going on. To summarize, if you guys just came in, Xinjiang cotton is the product of slave labor in concentration camps in China. Companies are playing it on the safe side because the world is finally starting to designate the Xinjiang, what's happening in Xinjiang, as a genocide. Right?
Yeah.
It started with Pompeo. It's moving on to European countries, and more countries around the world are starting to be like Canada.
Yeah.
They're like, actually, this is a genocide. We need to sanction China over this, right?
Yeah.
So, because if you look at the empirical evidence, it is genocide. It's just
100%.
not the same kind of genocide you saw Hitler do, right? Now, there could be Hitler-esque things happening within these camps because we're not allowed to find out.
No, we're not
which
allowed
we'll
to.
find out in a second. But he said the United States calls on the People's Republic of China to immediately end its campaign of repression in Xinjiang. And he went on to say it is a genocide. World followed suit. Now, we've seen China overreact to this in the past.
Yeah.
I did a video about this, but I have some new material for you guys that enjoyed that one. Immediately after Pompeo did this,
Yeah.
and you can leave him up here while we explain this,
Sure.
the Chinese government lost it. And there was a message that went around to government officials in Xinjiang.
Yes.
I think it was on WeChat. Was it either on WeChat or an SMS?
Yeah, I think it was WeChat. Maybe.
Okay, it was a WeChat message, and it said, go around to anyone you can in Xinjiang,
Yeah.
in your district, in your area, your jurisdiction. And if they speak decent Chinese, put them on camera and say, I F you Pompeo. I saw Pompeo's messages on the internet, and I was so mad. We don't have forced labor in Xinjiang.
Yeah.
We have free education in Xinjiang. We have this and this and this. And thousands of videos overnight, thousands of videos came up on YouTube. And there's right now, you can go to the next slide. There's entire channels dedicated to putting out videos about life in Xinjiang. This came up overnight, dude.
Yeah, responding to Pompeo.
Responded to Pompeo, and then also soft power propaganda films about how amazing Uyghurs' lives are in China and that there's no concentration camps.
I would like to also add that for the average Uyghur to be able to access
This is the
YouTube
irony.
is impossible.
Yes.
They are so heavily monitored. Their phones are all monitored. They're not allowed to just go wherever they want to do whatever they want.
Number two, the news about Pompeo, what he said about Xinjiang,
It's completely
it's totally
censored.
banned in China.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is going up to people that don't even know who Pompeo is.
Yeah.
They're already cut off from the rest of the world.
Sure.
And coercing them and forcing them to talk in front of the camera. Most of these people are wildly uncomfortable and
Sure.
had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
And they say the same thing over and over again. I'm mad at Pompeo because of the statements I saw online.
Yeah.
Our Xinjiang life is amazing. There's no forced labor.
Sure.
Everything's amazing and beautiful here. This happened over and over again to the point where they didn't even mix it up. They would put video after video saying the exact same thing with different people over and over again,
Sure.
coerced from a script.
Yeah.
So we figured we'd give you not even a best of, just a couple clips so you guys can see it.
Can you hand me the remote? I just want to turn it down so we don't get feedback. We're going to leave our mics hot so that we can actually comment because we want to kind of comment as this goes along.
Sure.
Give me a second.
Just
somewhere
real
around
quiet.
there.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
All right, let's play it. We're
So
going to
this
take
is
ourselves
China's
out.
knee-jerk reaction
Yeah.
to when statements are made about Xinjiang.
Yeah, and
这
so
几天我一直关注着蓬佩奥对新疆的各种言论，我感到极度的愤慨和不满。
最近呢，我在网
sure.
So what did she say? Recently I saw on the internet Pompeo's remark. She doesn't know what Pompeo is.
No. I'll
Next
actually
guy.
bring it back. Bring
Yeah,
it back
sure.
to that. Okay. In the past few days, I have been following Pompeo's comments on Xinjiang. No, you haven't. You're not even allowed to have your own
This is
phone.
this is not her fault.
No.
She's being coerced by CCP officials that we've seen in the statement to go into her home
Yeah.
and make her say these things.
Sure. Let's see the next.
新疆的
And it
各
goes
种
on for
言论
minutes, by the way.
我感到
We
极
cut a lot
度
of it
的
out.
愤慨和不满。
最近呢，我在网上看到啊，这个蓬佩奥他呢对于咱们新疆抹黑，说什么强迫劳动这样不正当的言
Here
论。
we go again. He's mad at Pompeo. Here's a Uyghur guy. He's on multiple ones. I've seen this guy. I heard on the internet that Pompeo talked nonsense. Nobody ever opposed us.
Yeah.
see what this-
Okay.
yeah.
This is my favorite by far. Okay. Let's just let him speak first.
Sure.
大家好，我叫迪林巴提艾尼瓦，是一个新疆吐鲁番爱好读书的维吾尔族小伙。
Can I just stop it right there?
Bring a subtitle up.
Yeah, let's take it back a second here. So he introduces himself.
By the way, he's mostly Han.
yeah,
I can tell.
you can tell he's but he says he's from the whatever
Right, Turpan Uyghur ethnic
yeah
group.
Uyghur ethnic group, and he says I like reading, and he's holding a book. Okay,
He literally introduced himself in Chinese, if you understand that. A Uyghur from this ethnic group that likes reading.
so they've got him in a bookshop here, right? And they scroll over to him. He's reading this book intensely. You know what it is? It's a children's book for like ages 1 to 3. You know what I mean? It's a tiny
I
little.
like reading.
Yeah, I like read. Imagine they film us reading Dr. Seuss.
I feel grim like laughing at this, but this guy is clearly a well-off Han person that's just pretending to be. He's probably like 10% Uyghur.
I know, but why is he reading a children's
He's
book?
reading it. That's the thing, is that they went to these lengths to be like, how can we make this believable? Let's make him reading in a bookshop.
Yeah.
And I'm filming. I'm going to pan to you. I like reading children's book.
But you know what they're doing here is they're covering up for the fact that a lot of them are not allowed to read or can't read or whatever. They're introducing a problem to us that we didn't really know existed. If you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because it's
Because it's guilty. They're guilty.
They're guilty of the fact that a lot of them, can't read Chinese or whatever. So they like, they love reading. Let's put that in there.
You know what they ended up doing before in my huge expose that I did?
Yeah.
So people were like, well, they saw the message, like, find Uyghurs that can speak Chinese, right?
Yeah.
So then they were like, oh shit, like the Westerners are catching on to this. So then they would just make them speak the Uyghur language.
Yes.
And they were like, see, but in those videos, they'd be like, I am allowed to speak my language. As you can see, I'm speaking my language. And then they hold up a book. This is a Uyghur book. It's the same shit.
We could recreate this where you could have like a bookshelf behind us of like lots of, like in a lawyer's office, you see all those books.
Yeah.
And it can pan over to me and say, I studied law, but meanwhile, I'm reading a Dr. Seuss book.
That's
because
literally
that's
what
what's
it is.
going on here.
Yeah.
That is a child's book. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Yeah.
新疆吐鲁番爱好读书的维吾尔族小伙。最近呀，我看到一则新闻，蓬佩奥在即将下台前的前一天，发表了一系列抹黑中国新疆的涉疆言论。
今天我又在网上看到了蓬佩奥对新疆的错误言论。他说对维吾尔
Go back down the stairs real quick
犯下
there.
反人类罪，这完全就是在胡说八道。
Okay, we got to just talk about Stair Boy for a minute there.
So Stair Boy, he gets cut. He has to go back down the stairs and
They were like,
continue
that's
his
not
stay.
good enough. Go back down, start over again. Because you see it jump cuts. He's like halfway up the stairs,
Right.
With his little thing about, I saw Pompeo on the news and, it's nonsense. And then he obviously said the wrong thing. So they're like, let's do that again. And he suddenly jumps back down, a few steps. Let's watch that again. Just so
This
that for
one's
those...
this one's sad though, because this guy's actually
为
Uyghur.
中国新疆的涉疆言论。
今天我又在网上看到了蓬佩奥对新疆的错误言论。他说对维吾尔族等少数民族犯下反人类罪。
In my very
这完全就是在
very organic situation here, I'm going to talk about the Pompeo's remarks on the internet, which everyone said literally hundreds of times over.
These houses are all fake as well.
A lot of them.
I
yeah.
mean, no, for the most part,
Yeah.
because that's not what you will find, in Western China. It's this kind of wallpaper thing over here. This is not where the guy lives, for sure. This is like they've taken him to I suspect a beauty spa.
Right.
Because a lot of these that we were looking through, not these ones in particular, but they all have a very specific design language. It's that kind of white, glossy, they've got the glossy, weird, flashy furniture and the weird kind of like 18th century looking Western things. And that's the design language you find in all these beauty spas that they have for women, where people go to get like their skin done and all that sort of thing. It's exactly the same. I've got footage because I took my wife to a lot of those places.
Right.
I have footage inside those places, and you can match them up, and they look exactly the same.
Good,
So-
well said. Another thing I wanted to say is that the language of how they filmed it. We got the original transcript of like go to Xinjiang and the villages and film these people, but we didn't get to see the revisions because they got caught out the first time, right? The revisions, obviously, in the beginning, what was happening is they would go like this: "I am from Xinjiang. I am so happy. We are not oppressed.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Did you see the one where they had that like bowl of fruit on the
Yeah,
table?
yeah.
But the fruit was kind of half off anyway.
yeah.
And he was like, "Look, we are rich. And
We are rich. We have food. I
Yeah.
have sheep." Then it turned into this. where it's walking towards the camera. This walking towards the camera thing, you know that they talk to each other. They had like a CCP meeting where they sent out messages and they're like, make them walk towards the camera.
Yeah.
But even they did a shit job at that.
I'd like to ask you, this rural Uyghur guy who has sheep and a bowl of fruit on his
Sure.
table, how does he watch YouTube? How does he know how to make... You know, it's all a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah,
and
no
it's so
shit.
easy to see through it, you know?
The thing is, with this one, they're also talking about forced sterilization. So there's a lot of videos where they would say, look, my family is big. And they kept putting in family photos of them
Yes.
to show that they have a big family. Look at this guy's family photo. Look at that on the left.
First of all, you know when you buy a photo from like Walmart or whatever and it comes with the white cardboard on the edges to protect the frame?
Yes.
Do you notice that that's still on there?
Yeah.
Because this is not his house and this is a beauty salon. You can even see in the background the little couch and stuff.
Yeah.
And what they've done is they've basically just, we need a photo quickly. Let's get a photo, put it in a
Right.
frame. Don't even bother to take that crap off. And let's just prop it on the wall there. It's not even up on a wall. It's propped on like a little
That's where
table.
I put my family photos, and I don't unpackage them.
No.
But this is the creepy thing. Look what he asked. Now he's talking about Xinjiang's economic development.
Yeah.
This is the most classic line. How many times have you heard 中国发展很快?
Yeah.
How many times have you ever heard that?
Shenzhen speed.
Yeah. So anyway, this is what he brings his daughter into this, which is really sad that they're making him do this.
Yeah.
新疆的经济发展取得了前所未有的成就，人民的生活也得到了明显的改善。宝贝儿，你幸福吗？
Bringing kids into this.
Yeah.
Continually, we keep seeing the same thing. We hate Pompeo because we're so mad because of the remarks we saw. This didn't happen. They didn't see shit about Pompeo.
No.
This is China's over-response, and they continue. And my advice to the CCP is if you're going to do soft power, and this is what I talked about in my video, you got to do it better than this because it's so clearly transparent, forced, coercive bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so despicable the way that they try to put up the family photos which are clearly fake.
Yeah.
And they're actually using, beauty spas or KTVs or whatever it is to pretend it's a person's home, you
Right.
know?
Look how
That's the
rich we
worst
are.
part. That's the worst part, yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
道的一些让我非常愤怒的
Sure you did.
言论，有个叫蓬佩奥的
That is a
人
beauty spa
对
there.
我们新疆的
That is a matter of opinion.
So, I mean, there's thousands of these.
Sure.
Thousands of these videos. But the point...
You did a video about it.
I did it, and it's worth checking
Yeah,
out.
you should check it out. If you like that little segment, Similk did a whole video
It's like a
with
half an hour.
with
It's
a
called
bunch of those.
How is This Allowed on YouTube?
Yeah.
Now, this is not a plug for my video. What this is it's a way for us to kind of enter this. So
Yeah.
you guys have some understanding about how China does this.
Sure.
When there's a response from the West, like in that case with Pompeo, they will pump out thousands of videos onto Western social media,
Western social
which I
media.
can't believe that's allowed.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're allowing a government that currently has a genocide to say there's no genocide on a Western platform by coercing people to do forced confessions on camera. YouTube and our Western governments, the U.S. government, is allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
Which, if you took that out of context, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, if you put any other country in any other situation, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
But for some reason, China's allowed to create hundreds of thousands of hours of footage of coerced confessions to deny genocide
Yeah, they're allowed to do it on Twitter with Hua Chunying.
on a platform they ban for their own citizens.
Sure.
So you guys can kind of get some perspective on what's about to happen next. Now that the cotton thing has happened,
Yeah.
people are saying, well, we should probably have tribunals to go in there and see what the hell is going on. And China says, no,
Yep.
you are not allowed to. But, you're allowed to travel there. It's so open. It's such a free land. But
Yeah.
if you're a journalist, you're not allowed.
Yeah, well, what you're going to see is a little interview from Channel 4, BBC, and this was actually about the sanctioning of certain officials,
Right.
Chinese officials, because, the whole Xinjiang thing's been designated genocide, okay?
Right.
So they sanctioned 4 Chinese officials who they believe are in charge of the whole Xinjiang thing, the Security Bureau and stuff.
It's big news.
It's huge news. But, of course, China immediately sanctioned, 9 EU officials in
Yeah.
response. They're like, oh, well, screw you, we'll do it too. But they've made a big mistake doing that. It was a miscalculation because now those EU officials are very vocal. They've come out now saying, like, I don't even know why I was sanctioned. Why? Because I believe in free speech, you know?
Right.
And it's really biting them. But following that initial sanctioning of those 4, before any reprisals or anything had happened, this little interview on Channel 4 was quite interesting.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick look at what is said here because it's very relevant. Let me bring that up. Okay, let's listen.
and a group of countries who have a certain set of standards when it comes to human rights have said they're not happy with the way China is behaving, and there are consequences. These are your internal affairs, but there are consequences for them. That's all that's happened.
Well, I said those accusations are groundless. You said there are credible information or sources saying that there's a misfortune or mistreatment of the Uyghur minority group in Xinjiang. But actually, in 2019 year alone, there are more than 200 million visitors from both China and overseas visited Xinjiang. If there are mass activities of torture or misbehavior happening in Xinjiang, why can't you produce more credible information?
Can I go
or
there?
pictures or videos? And also,
Can I go there?
Yes, please.
Can I go there to see for myself?
Well, when the pandemic situation allows, Xinjiang is open and there are no restrictions to tourists. If you go as a journalist, you have to apply first. But if you go as a tourist, there's no restriction.
Yes, I don't want to go as a tourist. I want to go as a journalist. And the UN would like to go as well. And they are not allowed either, are they?
Yeah, so first of all, the guy says 200 million, visitors or whatever to Xinjiang. That's all domestic. Those are all domestic tourists that go there. Because as a Chinese person, you can go to Xinjiang. There are really no limitations.
Well, even as a foreigner, you can go to
Kashgar.
You can go to Kashgar if you stay within the limits,
Yeah.
and you can go to Urumqi, which is half Han now, anyway.
Sure.
But you're also going to go through massive amounts of checkpoints, and you're not going to get anywhere near the concentration
No,
camps.
and look, for those of you who are saying like, oh, that's not true, you can go. No, from our own experience, we wanted to travel to Xinjiang, and we tried, and the places that we wanted to go, they wouldn't allow us.
No,
they
and
actually wouldn't let us
That was
go.
just nature stuff.
Yeah, we just wanted to travel around. They're like, you're not allowed in that area. You're not allowed to go in that area. If you get a minder and you get permission, we'll let you go into that area. It's like Tibet for foreigners. It's the same deal. You can't just go there. So he's lying. You can't just go as a tourist. Now, maybe you go as a tourist as part of a tour group or something, and they will keep you where they want you to go. And don't forget, in Nazi Germany, people living in the same area as the concentration camps didn't even know what was going on inside of those places.
Also, you can go to North Korea as a tourist too.
Yeah, you
Can you
can.
wander around and talk to people? Absolutely not.
No.
You can go wander around Urumqi and talk to people in Chinese until you say something suspicious, obviously. But the province is like the size of Alaska, guys.
Yeah,
if you want to go and see what's happening, you're effed. You will be screwed and deported. You can't do this, and they block them at every corner.
Not only that, okay, fairly recently, when I say fairly recently, 2017, a friend of mine and another friend, two of them, they rode motorcycles up into that area, and they sat down and they took some photos of like a mosque that was there. They took some photos. They were actually having lunch, took photos of a mosque. It wasn't even in like the Xinjiang proper. It was just around the areas. They were taking some photos of this mosque because they thought it looked cool. It's part of their travel diary and stuff. Next minute, they're still eating their lunch. A whole bunch of people came. Police came, arrested them, took them to the police station, forced them to delete all the photos out of their phone, from their camera. It was my friend had a little DSLR and stuff. They went through all of their stuff, and they were told to move on and not come back to the area. This is just random guys taking a photo of a bloody mosque.
Not journalists.
No. And, it's incredibly sensitive, so you can't just go there.
You can't just go randomly wherever you want in the province.
Now, that's a very interesting interview. If you watch the whole thing, the reason he gives for not allowing journalists and the UN in there is he says, we don't want people coming in that already have a presumption of guilt.
Yes.
So they don't want people to come in that think that China's doing something bad because then there might be an outcome that they don't, they're not favorable. It's not a favorable outcome. So we have a little prediction. We predict that the China shills, the China YouTubers still in China, will be going to Xinjiang.
And we're talking about Western YouTubers, so we don't need to say their names, but the ones that you see constantly supporting the CCP and saying it's amazing, and look, it's my Western dream to be in China.
Ooh.
And the nuanced individuals.
The nonce.
Yeah, sorry.
There are lots of these guys. If anyone is going to be allowed to go into Xinjiang for a fluff piece to try and debunk the
they're gonna say there's no genocide.
Yeah, they're going to be like, look, everyone's happy. Look at all this great stuff. We're calling it now, okay?
Yes.
That the shills, the G-bar suckers of the CCP are going to go to Xinjiang.
Yeah.
Sometime soon.
Yeah.
You can hold us to that.
Yes.
And if they do, then you'll know exactly. It'll prove 100% what they are.
Yep.
100%.
I mean, because they know that there is a genocide. They can
Absolutely.
read and consume Western knowledge.
Sure. Absolutely. Anyway, just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So anyway, there's been a reaction, another knee-jerk reaction. Now because of this is the level of, I don't want to say retardation, because that's not fair to
I'd
people
say
that suffer mental...
Childishness.
And like chabudoism, really.
Insecurity. Yeah.
Because it has something, this is typical Chinese propaganda, they will go and rush into a situation before thinking about it and then put out a bunch of soft power about that exact thing. So what are they doing right now? Going to film cotton.
Yes.
Just play this in the background. There's no audio, there's nothing. They run up there with shit gear because they have to do this last minute.
Yeah.
Like, I am now at a cotton field in Xinjiang. Our cotton is amazing. Look how they do this. It is not produced with manual labor. Well, 62% of it's not produced with manual labor.
Yeah. Yeah. They go on about how it's been automated, but only 63% is automated. So that means the rest is not. Even if it is 63%, who cares if that's true or not? You've still got the other, like, whatever, 38%.
One of the biggest cotton producing industries in the world. You got 38% of people using manual labor. Not just manual labor, a lot of it's slave labor and unpaid.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, they're going to debunk all this stuff now, and they keep doing this over and over again. Look at our cotton. Look at our cotton. You can just scroll through. There's another thing we don't even need to watch, but they did another coerced interview type thing. Keep going, just get past this crap.
This guy. Don't you just love how when Chinese journalists they don't ever hook up their lav mics?
Why though?
They always wrap a lav mic around a recorder like a Zoom or something like that, and then they just hold that.
I think it's so they can only use one because they're
and they point it around. They use it as
a normal mic. That's not how lav mics work.
It's very unprofessional. Learn what a lavalier microphone's for.
Anyway, scroll through here in the next video. I don't care about this guy anymore.
No,
he's like talking about defoliants. I'm not even joking. Oh, and then they got a Uyghur guy, and they go, "This is our drone pilot."
Yeah.
Anyway, continue. So they go through this very inane bullshit. Like,
is this the next one here?
No. Nobody cares about how cotton is made here. So anyway, they did this kind of stuff. There's no forced labor. This is CGTN. They went up there and did their own coerced version of this with little slicker cameras.
Sure.
But they did this cell phone aspect ratio, and they're like, "We are creating a better future. We have no forced labor. We are proud Xinjiang people. You will not interfere in our Chinese affairs. I live here. They did the same thing.
Again, I want you to pay attention to what this person's wearing. Crisp, clean, absolutely brand new prop that's been put on this person. That hat's not seen an hour's worth of wear, or that jacket, or that apron. It's all fake and false. Because when you live in China and you actually see what's going on there, this kind of thing's very unrealistic. I'm talking about crisp, clean uniforms for people that are doing some, kind of hard work or whatever. It's just not, even in the fanciest restaurants you go, well, maybe not the fanciest, but like middle restaurants you go into, the cooks and stuff, their stuff's filthy. It's just normal. It's actually used, not filthy, used is what I should say. So to have a crisp, clean uniform suddenly thrown on these people, and they're put in front of the camera to say,
in front of top state media,
and we have cotton field.
Yeah.
Why does she have to say that? Look, she looks like a cook or something. So what does she say?
Because it's so sloppy how they do this. They have to go up there, they randomly get some Uyghurs, and they're like, say that Xinjiang's awesome, there's no forced labor, and we have cotton. Now cotton's part of this. This is how sloppy this is.
I live in Baochu County, and we have cotton field. Okay? We plant cotton in the spring, but you're a cook. What do you have to do with cotton? We manage our field. Now it's not the harvest season. So I went out to work in another place to increase my income. Okay, we have about 2 hectares of cotton. The income was quite good last year. We earned about 30,000 yuan. Yeah, and
See,
then
they just run around talking about cotton.
Yeah.
It's so lazy. It's like, stop doing knee-jerk propaganda, China, because it looks so transparent.
That's the thing, because now this guy's talking about the Xinjiang's cotton quality is really good and stuff. we were talking about it earlier. It's like when a criminal gets caught out. What do? They deny, like vehemently deny, what they've been accused of, and they go and make stories and lies about it. And this is what's going on. Why would a bunch of companies are like, listen, we don't want to use Xinjiang cotton. We're a little worried that it might be coming from forced labor. What happens? The Chinese government goes on overload to push the soft power about how good the cotton is, how prosperous everyone is because of this cotton.
That's not how it works.
No.
The thing is, like, not to bring up the shills again, but the pro-China shills, the Americans, the Canadians, the British people out there that are getting paid by the CCP right now to say that there's no genocide and to literally ignore the millions of people that are being affected by this for their sweet paycheck from the Chinese government to be willing.
And their opportunities to travel around and do stuff.
I mean, the thing is, they know they're on the wrong side of history right now because the rest of the world is like, holy shit. Yeah. And they're waking up. So soon they're gonna have to either go all in on this, and say, no, there's absolutely no evidence of this, blah blah, despite the surmounting evidence that keeps coming out. Or they're going to have to back off and say, holy shit, I was wrong, and then admit to their audience, like, what's happening here. But my theory is that they're going to double down. Because that's just the way that nature works. They don't want to sacrifice their cheap beer and their lifestyle within China. Yeah. They'd rather sacrifice their own compatriots, like the two Michaels, and say, no, that they were criminals, even though they're not. Sure. And say, oh, I don't care that they're my compatriots. I would rather stick up for an oppressive government that literally takes the rights away from millions of people. Yeah. Because my life is more important. My
because they're in privilege. They're in a privileged situation. One of them deals with the government a lot. The other one's family's big in the government. The others are just being blown away by all the attention they're getting from the government. The other just wants to have a slovenly lifestyle. Right. Swilling beer around the place. My point is they're going to be on the wrong side of history when this stuff comes out. And the thing is, the reason I brought them up is that my question to them is, when you see YouTube channels pop up with thousands of videos saying the exact same thing over and over again about Pompeo, about cotton, about how there's no genocide, no forced labor. When you see channels like that, like literally prop up overnight, where a video is released every hour with a different person saying the same script all over YouTube to counter any sort of evidence that comes up. Sure. How do you, as a Westerner that speaks English and understands what's going on, how do you sleep at night knowing that you're promoting that behavior? The evidence is already there by how China acts whenever this kind of stuff happens. Sure. They act like a criminal that's too stupid to cover their tracks. That's right. They run to the crime scene. That's what they do. You never return to the crime scene is what they say, right? Sure. They run back to the crime scene where this is happening and then go, look, this is not happening, see? No one's buying it. No. And I haven't heard any of the shills talk about these channels. No. It's like, yes, there's surmounting evidence. Yes, there's investigations, and you can talk about all that you want. But isn't it pretty obvious when the Chinese government's running out to Xinjiang and making thousands of forced, coercive videos with the same script over and over again? What's your response to that? Well, I mean, their channels are more or less the same thing. It is. So. But, like, what's your response to something that's so sloppily done that you can obviously see what's happening? After the government mandate comes out and people can read it, go to Xinjiang, film these videos. What's your response? Maybe the vegetables were just too good. Too sweet. Yeah, I've been dancing a bit too much with them veggies, yeah. Anyway, guys, we're going to move on. Well, we're going to actually answer a couple of super chats. We've got a pretty funny and ironic world news, so we'll be getting into that. Stick around, so don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. Don't touch that dial. Christina Grissom said, y'all are awesome. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Charles Womack says, Tim Pool. Speaking of Tim Pool, we will be going on a show sometime in the near future. Actually, we won't say when. Obviously. No, because then people will be like stalking and waiting for us in the airport and wherever it is. Yeah. So don't worry about it. You won't know until it's done. But on the same sort of note, really, I got vaccinated for COVID yesterday. Yes. My first shot. Most of you know that I'm not a big fan of vaccines. I'm not what I would call an anti-vaxxer, but I'm also the kind of person who would never take a vaccine unless it was absolutely necessary. People take flu vaccines every year, and I'm like, why? No, you acknowledge that, like, measles, mumps, rubella, all this stuff that kids take. Yes. You get vaccines for your child. I'm all about, like, we don't need smallpox in this here world right now. Right. Okay? Right. So when it actually gets rid of something important, I know it's a necessary evil. It's like Rasputin taking poison to, win the game, Sure, so, I got it. If I suffer some kind of weird mercury poisoning or grow an extra limb or have an after effect or side effect. There would have to be mercury in it for you to suffer that. just saying, or if like whatever, something weird happens, I'll let you all know. So for any of you guys who are very concerned, I took the Pfizer vaccine.
Right.
If you guys are concerned, I'll let you know.
The thing is, that's great. And that means people care about you. You realize it's 80 million people already took that vaccine here.
Yeah,
so that
it's
you're
fine.
part of the majority, really.
It's cool, but what I'm trying to say is that that will enable us to travel, and that's the only reason I took it. To be honest, I'm one of those guys who'd be like, let everyone else take it, and I'll keep an eye on them.
To me, I'm not calling
when the
you
side
selfish,
effects,
but that is a very selfish perspective because you should take the vaccine, and I recommend everyone take the vaccine so that you stop the spread.
Yeah,
that is what it's about.
You can say it's selfish, but at the same time, I've been one of the most cautious.
I said perspective.
Yeah,
selfish
most
perspective.
Cautious people. I don't get near people. I wear a mask all the time. I keep my distance. I'm very good with that.
But I think that you should be getting the vaccine. That's how this is going to stop the pandemic.
Yes, it is. But like I said, I would rather have sat back and just seen if any side effects pop up. But because we need to do this, we need to travel and stuff. I went ahead and got it. So I'm the guinea pig for people who have the similar mindset to me. And I'll let you know if anything funny happens.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm a guinea pig to people who want to get the vaccine to be a good person.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not anti-vaxxer.
I know.
And I'm not pro-vaxxer.
It's a friendly debate.
But there's, what? I think Pfizer, Moderna, all those people need to just fire their sales staff because you're doing it for them for free anyway. You're like the champion of the vax.
I am.
Vax champion.
Well, they don't need a sales staff because it's free.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to sell it to governments, obviously.
Sure. Anyway, we digress too much. Let's move on.
Yes, Haley says, good evening from the capital region here in New York. Shout out to Albany. You guys should check out Rising with Crystal and Cigar. They report accurately on China. Interesting.
Okay.
Never heard of them.
Take a look. Thank you.
Jay Leo, Nike makes jerseys for China's national basketball and soccer team. Thank you, Jay Leo, for the jerseys, by the way.
Yeah.
In all the domestic leagues. Due to Nike's view on Xinjiang, with all those teams dump Nike and get local brands like Li-Ning, 361, etc., you might see something like that happening.
Yeah, it depends because these stupid boycotts that happen every single time there's a little spat somewhere, they either take hold big time and they stick around, but for the most part, it's usually flash in the pan. So like when that time they sailed through the South China Sea, America did, and everyone was boycotting Apple products, that didn't last very long. People smashed their iPhones and stuff. But guess what? Everyone still has an iPhone in China now because they had to go buy a new one because it was just a little spat and they got over it real quick. So it might happen the same with Nike. We'll have to see.
Right. Simon Mayo, thank you very much. Wing083, what is U.S. Wolf Warrior equivalent? Do we have a movie that cringe? I don't think we do. And we have lots of cringe movies,
like probably one of those Chuck Norris films like Missing in Action or something.
Yeah, but
back
it's not
in the day.
made by the government.
That's true. It's not a government
It's
thing.
cringe, but it's not a government entity.
It is. It's kind of like, Rambo going and killing all the Russians or whatever. It's it's one of those, there is, those things do exist in American culture, but you make a good point. It's not endorsed by the government.
No.
You don't see the top, we don't call American politicians like Rambo politicians. We don't do that. We don't endorse it. Go watch Rambo. You don't see like the USA government like actually going on the air and saying like, yeah, watch Rambo. That's who we are in America.
Right.
You don't see that,
Tiananmen Massacre says, have you heard the UK council seeks to rename the streets near the Chinese embassy as Tiananmen Square?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And it's
Uyghur
hilarious.
Way and stuff.
I love it. We are reveling in Tibet Street. And
that kind of stuff. Please, let's hope it does, yeah.
Arrest the Devil. Can you do a video on how much national debt the U.S. is held by China? Might be able to touch on it. I don't think many
do you know that China actually owes the U.S. trillions in debt too?
Do you know that China's GDP is, their national debt is 300% of the GDP?
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that everyone's like, oh, China's lent so much money to everyone, but China actually owes the rest of the world from before all this nonsense of their great
Not even
rise.
about COVID.
Yeah, before their great rise, and stuff, they borrowed a lot of money. They owe the world a lot of money, but in China they just don't pay attention to that.
Fori Fitness is just trying to show some support. Love everything you guys do and stand for. Thank you. Kelvin Cleese, very generous. Thank you very much. He said, here's some of my COVID money. Mm-hmm. Like, it's great that you made money off the pandemic.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. No,
I think he's talking about the check,
That's a
right?
joke. I
really
know
appreciate
you'll put it
that.
to good use. Stay safe. Love you guys. That's very, very selfless of you.
And very generous.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so much.
Yeah.
Daratan, did I miss your bit on the Xinjiang Nike issue? You did, but you can go back.
I don't think so. This is a pretty old question.
Oh, okay. Linuk Nerd, you mentioned in the past you made friends in China, not to dig into your personal life, but I hope they're all safe and good. And we still talk to them all the time.
Yeah, they just can't be publicly our friends really anymore.
It
which
sucks. And a couple of our friends have actually suffered because of it. And it's really awful.
It just shows you what kind of a regime you're dealing with there.
Dan Cacciatore, great podcast topics. Keep up the great work of exposing CCP injustice. Here's my token of support, plus being a patron of both of you.
Thank you.
I'm just ripping through a couple of these because we have so many. Sorry, JPN, in the promo video, I automatically noticed that you can't see the tracks on the wheels for the automatic field water sprayer. You showed the track, then you showed tractor guy. Oh, there's no tracks.
Yeah, because it's not even.
That's good eyes, man.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, because it's not moving.
Yeah. Takaro says, my wife is from South Africa, Durban. She is black. Would you recommend to not travel to China? Will she be treated poorly? Both of us, just her.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. If you do travel to China with a black spouse, you have to have a thick skin. All the black people I know in China have a very thick skin because you do get treated. And there's nothing is going to stop this. People react very differently to black people than they do to... They react to foreigners. I mean, if you go to a very tourist-heavy area like Beijing, it's not that bad.
Sure.
You go anywhere outside of that, even in places in Shenzhen and Shanghai and Beijing, if you go a little on the outskirts and they see a black person, they might recoil, they might say things.
They're not going to get up in their face.
No, they're not going to attack or do anything weird like that, but they are going to be incredibly rude by Western standards and maybe upset your wife very much. So just bear that in mind. I know a lot of black South Africans that went to China and other black nationalities that went there. And they've all had lots of racist experiences, but those with thick skin can see it for what it is and still have a good time. So if your wife has a very thick skin and can see them as just being ignorant, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. All right, let's do our last segment, then we'll get back to your questions.
Okay.
We're not ignoring your questions.
No, don't worry. Worldview, guys, where we talk about what's happening in the world, specifically to do with China.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to have to hit this one, and it is, well, everybody knows what happened in Alaska, right?
Yeah, so the Alaska talks, basically the U.S. government went to talk to the Chinese government. Yeah. And what happened was China acted like a petulant 12-year-old child. They used wolf warrior tactics, and they said, nuh-uh, what about this? Instead of taking a more diplomatic approach, because that's what the meeting was for, diplomacy, right?
Diplomacy.
Now, this dude, I forgot his name, is Yang. I think it's Yang. Mr. Yang.
There it is.
Yeah, Yang Jiechi. Yang Jiechi was famous for his very bullshit, really dumb quotes, like stop interfering in our internal affairs and stuff.
Which is just normal.
Hates the U.S., thinks it's the downfall of
It's like, you do not have authority to talk to us about anything, that type of thing.
Despises the U.S., publicly hates the U.S., just like most Chinese government officials.
Yeah.
Yet, alas, his daughter...
Guess what? Sent his daughter to Yale.
I mean, this is not anything new.
Hua Chunying, her daughter's in the States.
And we're not here to this. We block them out because it's not their fault. It's not their choice.
We don't bring family in. Like the shill people that go after Seamilk and myself and the Wu Maos and stuff, they constantly try to drag our wives and our daughters into the conversation. And that's not what we do. But this is a case of, do as I say, not as I do. Look at these people. Xi Jinping's daughter went to Harvard, okay, and is still in the U.S., okay, the freaking dictator of China. Why is it that these elites, these top elites, send their kids to the U.S. and to England and stuff? I guess that means China's educational system just isn't good enough. Because why are you not sending them to, the top Tsinghua University or something in Beijing? Why are you not doing that? I guess because... you're a bloody hypocrite. You say the West and that America has no place to talk about China or whatever. Then why are you sending your daughter there to study?
I mean, remember that, what was the CCP official professor or something said the U.S. is the most disgusting place and it's not fit for habitation.
Yeah, meanwhile, then he was spending all his time there in Texas.
We're not cancel culture boys. What we're doing is showing you the hypocrisy, is that you can't take anything these guys say seriously because they don't practice what they preach.
Well, you know what maybe is happening here is they're sending their kids to the colleges and stuff in the U.S. so that their kids can learn to hate the U.S.
Yeah.
Because of all the Marxist lectures and stuff will teach them how to hate the U.S. more.
Maybe they're getting a good education.
Yeah, then they can go back to China hating the U.S. even more.
Yeah. But jokes aside, I saw some very, very wrong comments in the live chat here.
Oh, really?
The talks in Alaska were not incredibly productive, but what it did do was solidify China's position as a child on the world stage. Pretty much the whole world was laughing at them. And they basically blew any opportunity they had to convince the world that they were going to act maturely. Yeah. Because they hurled personal insults. It was so immature and embarrassing. Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of people that didn't watch it or read the transcripts. And it pissed me off to no end, like throughout the week. I kept hearing from people. that watched their own preferred mainstream media or whatever they think is actually like a rebellion against mainstream media, saying that the U.S. got their ass handed to them and China made us their bitch.
Nope.
It is you're so lost if that's actually how you came out of this. The majority of people didn't read that, so they don't know what they're talking about. But they like to look up to their heroes or whatever that said that, saying like, look at China made us their bitch. That's not what happened.
No.
America acted diplomatically. This is nonpartisan, by the way.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Republican versus Democrat. Doesn't matter whose cabinet is who.
Sure.
The U.S. government acted diplomatically and tried to come to some conclusions, and the Chinese government acted like a little spoiled baby, hurling personal insults, and showed bare their ambitions on the world stage.
That's the point. Is now, I'm very glad this happened.
Yes.
Because up until now, I think the majority of people haven't been paying attention to China. And when they think about China, they think of a beautiful culture. They think about tea and silk and kung fu and, like beautiful ancient culture and people having this being nice people, And this is what they think about China. They don't understand that is not modern China. The modern China, the government is this horrible Marxist. It's a knockoff of Karl Marx's communist crap, mixed with authoritarianism, a little drop of socialism, which isn't really there.
Barely.
It's not even there. But it's this weird mishmash of an aggressive, place or aggressive government that will do anything that it can to get the advantage. And they will take advantage of, and they will steal, and they will destroy, and they will grab, and they will do what they can. And they will run over anyone, and they have no compassion towards anyone or anything. And they have no feelings of guilt for anything that they do either. And
it's self-preservation for the Communist Party. That's the only reason they exist.
Yeah.
It's not for the people.
Yeah, but people haven't been seeing this. But now when you start to see these wolf warrior craps like this guy that we just showed you, whose daughter studies in Yale, when you start to see this kind of guy come out and the rhetoric that he's spouting, I think a lot of people's eyes are opened and they're like, hang on a second, China isn't what I thought it is. China, we've been nice to China all this time. We've agreed to play along with their bullshit for all this time. We keep apologizing to China because we may have said something that hurts the feelings of the Chinese people. We've shunned Taiwan in favor of this horrible bully. We've destroyed and hurt relationships with the good people of Taiwan and Hong Kong and, various other places around the world because we don't want to hurt our relationships with China. Now this guy comes out with this crap and people are like, hang on a second, like why? Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we've been looking at China wrong this whole time. And that is a good thing because people need to realize the Chinese Communist Party is not to be trifled with.
Amen.
Just like what the guys did, take his words for what, you have no right to talk about China. Look at the merch that's now selling all over the Chinese internet.
You want to know what the definition of cringe is? You can play it because there's some footage.
Right.
They're literally making quotes from the Alaska talks for merch for Chinese people to buy, saying stop interfering in China's internal affairs. Can you imagine a person in the U.S. wearing this?
Yeah.
Like imagine it said, stop messing with U.S. internal affairs because it was said in a diplomatic meeting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not only that, here's the thing about internal affairs. Again, I'm going to bring up apartheid. If you want to have that whole thing that China, because China, they know they're doing wrong.
Yes,
and when people point out that they're doing wrong, they say, don't mess with our internal affairs. Right. What if the apartheid government was exactly the same?
Right.
What if they were like, don't mess with our internal affairs?
Right.
People didn't take it. They didn't allow that to continue.
So why
do
you as a populace allow China to get away with it?
Why do people allow China to continue to do these bad things?
Not to be a positive Polly here, but we are seeing a massive shift. I would say last year, Winston and I felt pretty hopeless about this kind of stuff, but we had to keep the fight up, right? Yeah. I would say the hope is swinging in the other direction now. The rest of the world, I'm talking about all races of all people, are waking up to this. And including Chinese people abroad and things like this that have to look at the way China's governing itself and acting on the world stage and saying, we want none of this. We want no part of this.
Sure.
And it's actually a fantastic shift that's happening.
It is. This cotton thing is great because it's starting to bring a lot out.
It's another conduit. It's another talking point that starts a huge wildfire of knowledge for people to understand about how China's acting.
Sure.
And again, my warning, I say a warning to the shills because it's not the pro-CCP shills out there, including the YouTubers. My warning is not a threat. My warning is that you got to be super careful because when it's all said and done, let's say 5 years from now,
sure,
and we see laid bare what China has been doing, We see laid bare with proof and actually all sanctions around the world about what's happening. Yeah. And a general populace is very aware and supportive of actions against the Chinese government for what they've been doing. You don't want to be on the wrong team there. No, it's a pretty bad look to be a racist xenophobe that supports a government that murders and genocides people. Yeah. It's a really bad luck.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, anyway.
It's Q&A time.
Yes.
So this is where we answer your questions and you question our answers. We got quite a few to get through here, guys. So Correct. We're going to hit it and then we're going to give you a meme right at the end.
Yes. Saptarshi Sengupta, Sea Milk, I got spooked by your video where you told about running into an assassin in Hunan. That was in my Sea Milk Goes West series. I was curious to know why CCP has never attempted to arrest these people and end other organized crime. What you have to understand is the interior of China, like Guizhou, Hunan, Gansu, all the interior provinces, it's pretty lawless. And it's not that the cops don't know, they are complicit. The local governments in these places are very pikey and unorganized. It's organized crime, basically. And that's how a lot of income is made because it's the only way to make money.
That's how they evict people off the land.
If they hire thugs. They're hand in hand with mafia. What people don't understand is that there's not some criminal organization and then the Chinese government. They work together.
Yeah.
Because they're both fairly criminal in the way they operate. Tiananmen Mesker says, can you recommend me something I can send to my brainwashed Chinese friends to be awakened from all the CCP lies? It's a very long process. Honestly, there's subreddits and stuff they could read.
Yeah, no. The best thing that I've always found is you need to find documentaries about
Chinese.
Yeah, it's got to be in Chinese, and it's got to be about like the Mao Zedong times, the Great Leap Backwards, and the cultural devolution and stuff. But it has to be told by Chinese people because when you've got a Chinese nationalist, as soon as a foreigner tries to say anything, immediately they switch off. They just won't even accept it because they've been conditioned their entire lives to believe foreigners are against us. It's us versus them.
Yeah.
And foreigners, they're going to lie to me to try and, change my mind. So it needs to be a Chinese person telling them these things because then they at least listen. Doesn't mean they'll change their mind, but at least they'll listen without switching off.
Right. Jackie Jiaqi Yu, thank you for paying attention to the oppressed minority. It's our pleasure. The feud between the Han and Uyghurs are real, and Han people are harmed too, caused by policies of the CCP. They wanted us to fight, and that's very true. Thank you for acknowledging that. Is that what's been being spun to the Han people in China is that the Uyghurs are these terrorists that want to kill all the Han people, when in fact it's been stoked by the nationalism, by the Communist Party of China, because when you cause a rift, when you cause a drive in the communities, which is actually what the Chinese Communist Party wants to do, it makes it much easier to suppress the group because all of a sudden they're the bad guy.
Well, the more you discriminate against certain people, the more you pigeonhole them, the more you denigrate them and stuff, the more they're apt to act out against it and lash out. This happens everywhere.
Right. Mimi says, what are your views on the recent sanctioning of Chinese officials with regard to the Uyghurs' treatment? Should the amounts be frozen, be released publicly to show how corrupt these officials are? I think they should.
Yes.
And I'm not one to normally say that, but when you have the CCP operating with full immunity, you have to use something that they're used to, and that's public shaming. That's just how nature works.
Yeah, they have to lose face. All these corrupt officials from China have massive amounts of assets overseas because that's how they get their corrupt money and their bribe money and stuff out. They send their family overseas. That's why they send them to Yale and Harvard and all these Ivy Leagues and whatever. And they buy property like crazy and they invest in a lot of stuff overseas. They have massive amounts of money or gold or whatever that they get overseas. And that's kind of where they store all their wealth. So if these guys are sanctioned, that stuff should be frozen and it should be seized and should be looked into because that's going to send a clear message to them.
Right. Wing Zero says, what happens if you say like one of the former Chinese presidents better than the current one in China publicly? Publicly, you'd get in trouble. If anything against Xi Jinping, you'd get in trouble. Publicly in that you said it in the media.
Yeah.
If you said it to your friends or something
totally
like
okay.
that, it's fine.
Yeah.
Georgia Jia, I had a question about the KMT. That's the Kuomintang. That's the Nationalist Party of China. That ran away to Taiwan.
Yeah, they ran away to Taiwan.
World War II veterans in China. I know a lot of them fought Mao in the Civil War after Japan left. How are they treated by society? Are they forgotten? Were they all killed? China likes to whitewash all of that as a CCP victory only.
Yeah, they even take the flags out of their historical
They want to
movies.
remove the Nationalist Party from Chinese history more or less.
It had much bigger role to play than the communists against Japan.
For sure.
They actually were the ones fighting while the communists hid out in the hills.
Yes.
So they did much more for China than the Communist Party ever did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mafsiata, Xi Jinping's cult of no personality. Sneaky Jolteon says, some Chinese influencers in Shenzhen on Instagram are posting pics of pool parties with no mask. The captions say, we don't need to worry because there have been no cases in 125 days. No way, right? Well, there's just not, you're not allowed to say that there's cases at this point.
They wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know.
How would they know? It's not reported. When something does happen, it's kept on the low.
Yes, and it's already. Remember when we talked about poverty alleviation, so that people can't get handouts anymore because poverty's already been alleviated,
Sure.
even though nothing's changed for them. It's the same with COVID. After it's already been defeated and it's a victory by the government, then you can't say that it exists anymore.
Yeah.
That's against the government and against social order, and you can get arrested for that, for
So
spreading rumors.
if people get infected, you know that it's just hushed up.
Yeah.
Swept under the rug. Yeah.
Humanity never learns. Taiwan equals Poland, China equals Germany in 1939. A lot of parallels there, for sure. Shinden Kokonamaru says, I lost a few online friends and followers because I called out their tanky friend saying Uyghur genocide is a fake CIA psyop. I don't know how to address evil when it's so close to my social circle.
It's tough.
I know, I get it.
There's a particular tanky that's really like obsessed with me and obsessed with other people who believes that this is all a hoax, and he's obsessed stalker who just won't stop.
He's getting his kids involved.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And it is. It's toxic. It's disgusting. And, what can you say about people of low moral character like that, really? They're just selfish and obsessed and weird and psychopaths.
I mean, they have their own hang-ups, too. Like, they never got rid of... Maybe that person was bullied, right?
Maybe.
And they just they grow up and they get some money and stuff, and they have to just flex that around,
Yeah, maybe that's how they get their validation in life, is by attacking others.
But it's awful,
yeah.
and it's not. It's an adult shouldn't be behaving like.
So
that.
when you're dealing with someone in your social circles who's like that, the best thing is to ignore them. You should always call out evil when you see it. So if someone's being like
don't let it stop you.
Complete douchebag. Just make your opinion known, but then don't respond to their attacks and their attempts to debate you and all this kind of stuff. Because you're never going to have a constructive conversation with someone like that.
No.
So basically just ignore them.
Right.
Yeah.
Tiananmen Massacre says, request ADV Podcast as Joe Rogan Podcast guest by going to joerogan.com/contact. Thank you for making that publicly known. We've done that probably a million times, and so has everyone else, but this reignites a new fervor.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Siptarshi Sengupta, will Xi's faction and family suffer the same fate as Bo Xilai after she is gone? It's always a chance for that to happen, but with the amount of power he's amassed, although Bo Xilai was massively powerful too.
Yeah.
Will the CCP split due to Xi's poor treatment of rival factions? The problem is that was a huge possibility until he really he took all of the power.
He's consolidated too much
power.
Consolidated. Yeah.
Jackie Jiaqi Yu, I saw a screenshot from Chinese cotton supplier of H&M saying that they just removed the cotton package so H&M doesn't know that it's using Xinjiang cotton. You're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff for sure. These companies, I mean, let's be honest, we're not saying any of these companies are winning the moral war here, guys. They're unwilling participants in this.
Sure.
But the fact that people are talking about it's a great thing. And if you have to sacrifice some companies' profits to make that happen, so frickin' be it.
Yeah, exactly. You survived before the Chinese market opened up.
Survive
and you
after.
will survive after. You don't need that market. I know it's all about greed and making money, but it's a moral thing at this point. Why are you capitulating to these atrocities,
Right.
Your brand should be better than that.
Yes. Unfortunately, in this day and age of the internet, they will have to answer for it for the populace that are pointing fingers.
Sure.
They'll say, I'm not going to support Nike / whatever company.
Yeah.
Because screw them. Mimi says, shout out for Stealth War and 100-Year Marathon, 2 excellent books that did a great job of explaining the behavior of the CCP.
Oh, great. We'll take a look.
Sean Rice, hard times lately, but you guys are worth it. I've been binging you and your Prozzies and Wives podcast for weeks while I work. Thank you.
Cool.
Alpha Omega, in America, I can go in front of the White House and shout that I don't like Joe Biden running the country.
Yes, you can.
Alpha Omega, whereas in China you'd be able to go on Weibo and shout about how I don't like Joe Biden running the United States. Yes, correct. That's an old Soviet joke.
Yeah. You can criticize anyone in the world except for the Chinese government or China in
Correct.
China.
Jennifer, there's no human rights or amnesty society at my university, but I'm working to create one to talk about the Uyghur genocide and other huge issues.
That's good.
Yes.
Prepare for a lot of backlash if you have a
but
Confucius
backlash is
Institute.
good. That means you're doing something right.
Yeah. If there's a Confucius Institute there or a Chinese student league or whatever they call them, union, be prepared for some backlash. They'll try to shut you down all the time.
But do it.
Do it. Invite the Dalai Lama over. Please
do whatever you can.
Yeah.
Stir it up.
Stir it.
K Booty, the Uyghur video reminds me of the amazing Alexander. I loved it. It's much better than Cats. I will go to see it again. Google it.
Okay.
Shivam Rai says, whenever you guys get a chance to go to India, you should do a collab with Carl Rock, who's a YouTuber based here. I
We'd
see
love
a lot
to.
of parallels. Yep, that's the
we
most
know-
common. That's the most common recommendation we get. So we'll definitely look
Absolutely
into it.
will. Thank you.
Owen Prescott, CCP should hire Western YouTubers to help fake genocide with higher production value. They do.
Yeah.
They're called the other YouTubers that are in China right now.
Yeah,
you
the
know what I'm
shills.
talking about.
Yeah.
So they do. They
They
already
do.
do that.
And they retweet them. The Wolf Warriors retweet them and stuff.
The actual Wolf Warriors retweet these people.
Yeah.
These YouTubers that we're talking about.
Sure.
Scott Cook, boycott shampoo, demand the real poo.
Okay.
Shampoo.
Okay.
Dog Life 4444. You said a script was written of the uptick to violence to Asians before and without the mass shooting narrative attached. What did the script say? What?
No, I think you misheard us. But, the fact of the matter is that...
What?
No, we didn't say that. But the CCP is taking advantage of these anti-Asian
massively.
hate crimes.
The
that-
tweets,
they-
the soft power.
They love it. It's
They revel
really
in it.
something that they can't wait to jump on whenever there's a thing. And it's led to a couple of slip-ups, I must say, recently. And people have been having their foot in their mouth, a few people anyway.
Yeah.
Like that fake, there was the thing we talked about last time, where they made that fake thing. Oh, excuse me. Go away. There was that thing where they made the fake Facebook post tying it to the shooter, the Atlanta shooter. And guess what?
Is that
It
what
was-
they're talking about?
Maybe.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is it's fake. But a lot of people ran with it and tried to blame me and C-Milk and others for the Atlanta shooter. Say we had blood on our hands and stuff, and it turned out to be fake.
How effed up do you have to be to try to tie
I
someone
mean, they
to
even
that?
made websites.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. But, what do you expect? These people have got a drive to try and silence any criticism of the CCP. And what we're doing right now is literally the kryptonite of the CCP. So thank you for being a part of this, because what
Yes.
we're doing right now is having a very important discussion that very few people are having. And you are a part of it. And you know
Yeah.
what? We're going to make change. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
You, along with us, we're making some change. So thank you
Not
very
talking about
much.
like 63 cents here.
No,
Not even
not
talking
that
about
kind of
5
change.
cents.
Like actual change.
Linda Hunter, hey fellas, got a lot of cool emojis there.
Nice.
Was the community banquet in Wuhan an annual event or a one-off? Who paid for it? I believe that's an annual
Yeah,
event.
that potluck thing.
So they had, basically, if you guys don't know what she's talking about, this is something we broke.
Yeah.
They're right when they were hushing people up about coronavirus, when it was first outbreaking in Wuhan. They were like, you're not allowed. They went on national news and said, you're not allowed to talk about it. Stop spreading rumors. They
Yeah.
literally warned people to stop talking about coronavirus.
Yeah.
Then they had a huge potluck dinner with 100,000 people
Yep.
eating out of the same dishes,
Sure.
no masks everywhere. And
Yeah.
probably a super spreader event that
Oh, yeah.
started the whole thing off.
Pretty much.
Who paid for it? The local government.
Yeah.
Son of a horse.
There
Okay,
we go.
Ryan Jones. I just wanted to thank you too for your live streams and reporting and analysis of your current events. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Winnie Yip says thank you for keeping us updated. I rarely see this stuff in the mainstream news. Here's my token of appreciation.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, the mainstream news doesn't want to cover a lot of this stuff, and for good reasons. It doesn't fit the narrative,
Sure.
So that's what we're here for.
Dog Life 4444. Captain Baker removed from being the spokesperson of the spa shootings after his empathetic comments to the shooter having a bad day. Love to hear it. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not following that much. There was another shooting with 10 people that were killed recently, which is
in
awful.
Boulder.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
Anyone who goes on a shooting rampage is a piece of crap psycho, and I have no sympathy for them or their motivations. And it's just they have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Correct. And societally as well.
Sure.
Luis Romero. Is there an NGO, institution, or site with a list of companies and products that use slave labor that we should avoid if we can? I actually do have one. I'm going to have to dig it up.
Yeah.
I might be able to put it in later, next week. Retrig 202. If your watchers are not, check out Vice's China's Vanishing Muslims video to see the situation firsthand. It was actually really good. Definitely check it out. Norman Fair. If the shills go to Xinjiang and make pro-CCP videos, they should be arrested the moment they land on the West for supporting crimes against humanity.
Absolutely. Let that be a warning to you shills out there.
Yeah. I mean, if you show up in Xinjiang and you're accepting any compensation from the Chinese government. You know, it can be, you can mask it under a travel company or whatever, but if you're accepting money to go to Xinjiang to do propaganda for
to
the
say
Chinese
that
government,
everything's cool here,
right,
nothing to see.
Whether
here.
you say that or not, if that's the ambition of the government's project, if you go in there, then you are committing crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
Drea Tart, watching from Puerto Rico. In PR Chino Rican cuisine, that's like Puerto Rican Chinese
That sounds
cuisine.
awesome. I want to try that.
Yeah, restaurants became a staple during the 70s. You should try never taking for granted that we are a U.S. colony. We have free speech.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
I'd love to go to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we would have fun there.
Yeah.
There's a cool car scene there.
That's amazing. But especially I like the sound of that Chino Rican.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds amazing.
I bet it's mad good.
Yeah.
Mike Huter says white lettering plus white F body. Looking forward to the upcoming
Oh,
trips.
thanks, man.
Nice.
Yeah, it's talking about my car over on Worthless Whips, our car channel. I know it's a small channel and most people aren't interested in it, but we monkey around on cars and stuff.
Yeah,
It's called Worthless
fun.
Whips. It's
And
fun.
thank you, Mike.
And
Very
thank
generous.
You are
Appreciate
very,
it. Love
very
hearing
generous.
from you, Mike. Haven't heard from you in a little while. Dave M. In my newsfeed today, police closed China's first sex doll brothel. Was there more than one?
Yeah.
What's a migrant worker to do? Keep up the good work.
They actually had a scheme where, you know, there was bike sharing was a huge thing. They had
Yeah.
a sex doll sharing scheme as well for a while in China. That got shut down because of indecency or something.
Sure.
But, you know, you have to understand that there is a problem when it comes to a gender imbalance and stuff. And migrant workers that go to big cities like Shenzhen, for instance, and stuff.
Any city.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have a lot of money to spend.
No.
The prostitutes are too expensive, and also they clamp down on prostitutes a lot. So, you know, they can't afford a prostitute, so they have to find alternatives. And
Yeah, but you have to throw out there that a lot of them use prostitution.
Yeah.
And there's very cheap alternatives.
Of course
for
there
them.
are.
You go in the villages.
Yeah,
come on.
you have to go a little further out,
Yeah.
though. You can't be like downtown.
No, but that's where the factories are,
Yeah.
right?
Well, migrant workers work
You're
in
talking about,
construction and
those
stuff,
guys, yeah. But the prostitutes are very affordable. The thing is, yeah, if you're downtown, that's where these places were springing up, these sex doll places. And China thinks it's a massive loss of face.
So they got rid of it, yeah.
Case closed 93. Do you think U.S. schools should stop doing study abroad programs and Americans shouldn't visit China for tourism? I feel like it's propping up the CCP. Tourism is a tricky thing. I think I'm never going to tell someone not to. In fact, I encourage people to travel everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I think it can change your
It can
perspective
open your
on
eyes,
things.
yeah.
So from that perspective, I'm not super passionate about that. I think putting a hold on buying Chinese products if you can, especially if they have anything to do with the genocide, obviously.
Yeah.
But anything that props up soft power with China, being a traveler is, I mean, that's not a massive revenue source for the government, to be honest.
Yeah, no, the thing is about the school exchange programs.
Sure.
I think that it needs to be fair because
Fair.
there are so many of these school exchange programs, but you know what? It's 99% of it is Chinese people coming to other countries and very few students actually going to China.
Sure.
That's the thing. So is it an exchange or is it an excuse for them to...
If you look at the whole numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Or is it an excuse for them to come in over here and influence and change, you know, schooling and curriculums and things like that? That's what the Confucius Institute's all about.
That's
and
what
stuff.
they do, yeah.
I mean, seriously, how many... I studied in the Shenzhen University, okay? That's a huge university. It's a big university. And the amount of foreign students in there was like maybe 100, okay, at most. Out of thousands and thousands of people going there, right? They have a tiny little segment for the foreigners. They've got their own little dormitory, which consists of about 10 rooms or something. It's tiny. It's a small amount. Meanwhile, if you go to all the big universities around California or anywhere, you'll find like the majority, well, first of all, definitely the majority of international students are Chinese. But then like sometimes you'll go onto campus and the majority of the people you see are Chinese as well. I've been kind of blown away by that myself when I went to some of the universities around here. So the thing is, it's not fair. It's not an exchange program here, but it's being used as this guise of an exchange program, and the governments here
It's for the
fund
government.
it. Yeah, and they fund it and all that kind of stuff. And it's just not fair. So I think there needs to be a balance. It should be kind of a one-to-one type thing.
And it has nothing to do with the Chinese students. It's about
No.
the fact that it's a government-funded program that
Sure.
wants to coerce the American government into things.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a foreign government.
So we have to look at that closely. I think a lot of it needs to be scrutinized.
SerpentZA, thank you. Nice
Mm-hmm.
to hear from you. The hair for wigs and extensions from China comes from prisoners. The dead, gangs of people collecting discarded hair from sewers and dumps that is cleaned and sold to Western nations. Absolutely heartbreaking, needs more exposure, and yes,
Yeah.
it has been proven.
Yeah, no, that is a real thing. I know, especially in Africa, you know, hair extensions and stuff are sold from China. They say they're coming from Uyghurs and things like that. We will look into it a little closer. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that has been proven, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Canadian-
if we're going to talk about it, we're going to
Sure,
look into
of
it
course.
much closer.
Canadian Greg, when are both of When are you both on Michael Malice's show? You're welcome. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who he is, but okay.
Whenever we get invited.
Sure.
LB is Rifat. I'm a Uyghur myself. Always watch you guys, and you guys are the one channel that tells the truth about China. Especially Matt always exposes what I experienced growing up. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Jennifer, the Pentagon helped Top Gun, free advertising. Oh.
Yeah. Well, actually, the Navy asked if they could have their logo, whatever, in the front of the movie as advertising, and the producers,
that's what it is. Okay.
Producers are like, nope, this is enough of an advert for you, this movie, so we're not going to put it in. Yeah. They actually didn't let them.
Doglife4444, SerpentZA and Laowhy86, please check out the Instagram page Next Shark to stay informed on anti-Asian incidences. It will make your heart fume. Thank you too. Thank you, Doglife.
Sure.
Egza, hashtag free the Michaels. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. They're not being treated well. It's going against international laws, what they're doing. It's just terrible. We're keeping a close eye because one of them is our friend.
Yes. Zephyr Chan, very generous. Thank you very much. Here's my token of support. Can we see a video explaining the CCP's power structure from either or both of you guys? Please stay safe. I actually wrote that in my notes. That's a video I'm working on.
Yeah, that's his style.
Thank you very much, though. Nick Roaming, Mean Gene XG. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Joseph Argentino, do you guys any way to kick CCP in China? No.
Kick them in China? Yeah, you can. You can go into China and kick a CCP member, but you're not going to go very far.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
You won't go very far.
No. That'll be your last kick.
Kicking Xi Jinping in the ass, I can wholeheartedly sponsor. I'll sponsor that. I'll give you $5 back to go kick him in the ass.
Thank you.
You won't get very close though.
No.
J-Man Nice Guy 1492. Have you either of you watched the show Fresh Off the Boat? I have. I watched the entire thing. The Chinese mom is exactly like my Chinese girlfriend. She's actually Taiwanese.
Taiwanese.
Well, in the show. It shows that Chinese women aren't docile. That's
correct.
Yeah.
No, it's actually kind of fun.
That's what I mentioned in my last video.
Yeah, it's a fun series. I enjoyed it.
Wing083, do any Inner Mongolias actually defect to Mongolia? A lot of them, actually.
Yeah.
The border's quite porous. Oh, son of a... I'm sorry. Canadian Greg, since your last episode, I watched the Hong Kong documentary Moving Can. We have an update at Q&A time about Hong Kong every time. Whenever there's a massive thing, we're slacking a little bit on that. We
have to get back into it.
I know what's happening.
It's just unfortunate and it's very depressing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you lose so much hope and you're like, God.
Yeah, you don't really want to talk about it so bad, but yeah, we'll get back to it.
Windex, real anti-China racism is sending me a Zoom invite. Oh, I get it. Because if somebody sends you a Zoom invite, then
what?
I don't know.
Sorry, don't get that.
I don't get it. Is it because they're funded by China? That's what he's trying to say.
Oh, yeah, Zoom actually shut down meetings, and
because of Tiananmen
stuff.
Square. Yeah. CPG, thanks guys, keep up the good work. Nick Roaming, Mean Gene XG, Ron DeSantis 2024 is campaigning. I guess that's what you do. It's America. You can campaign for your candidate.
Don't know who that is.
Dog Life. I know I mentioned quite a bit about anti-Asian violence and incidences. It really hits close home, so excuse me and thank you again, seriously. No worries.
Sure.
Because you're right to do so, and we think it's an awful thing.
And it's a very important thing to cover. I'm actually, I made a kind of a promise last time that I'm going to look into it, and I am.
Yeah, he's been going well into it.
I'm looking into it, and you don't need to worry. I'm going to be... Each individual case, I'm going to find out what's going on and what the motivation is, because I want to see what the overarching interface is. I mean, what am I saying? Interface, the motivation. And so far, what I've found is completely different to what the mainstream narrative is about this stuff. And I will only ever share this once I'm 100% certain of my findings.
Canadian Greg, besides Hong Kong, to Taiwan, Tibet, Mongolia, what are the dynamics between China, Singapore, and Malaysia? Any interesting insights? Singapore, Malaysian, Chinese... well, I shouldn't say Singapore. Malaysian Chinese, the older generation, tend to be very supportive of the CCP, very much brainwashed about China's positive influence in the world. Malaysians, period, are not, by and large, not usually pro-CCP. Singapore is a very neutral. Yeah. They're kind of like Switzerland.
Very rich.
Yeah, and their education system is funded a lot by China, but they will not allow CCP to dictate what they do.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I've actually talked to someone from Singapore the other day about that very thing.
Cool.
Richao, I'm naked and drunk, but still tune in to this channel because you do important work. Cheers from Norway.
Thanks, man.
Seriously, that is an image that I didn't necessarily want to have. And I love that you're slurring while typing.
It's great.
But your generosity is fantastic, and I hope you enjoy yourself.
Maybe throw on some boxes.
Well, I mean, he's alone, right?
Right.
What if he's not alone? What if he's out in public
I doubt it.
watching us?
But thank you,
Don't
man.
attach your drunken naked antics to our show.
No, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Didymus. Thank you for the work that you do. Looking forward to seeing you guys on Timcast IRL.
Absolutely.
Linda Hunter, in case Winston cuts out when you say finish, stay awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks. We love seeing you. My Amy Trong Yahoo, thank you very much. And Wing083. Do you think surrounding Asian countries like Vietnam, the Philippines, will unite against China messing with their fishing? Vietnam absolutely is going ape shit against China right now. Philippines, the Filipino people that support us are freaking pissed.
Yeah, but that Duerte guy,
he's
psychopath.
literally a psychopath sycophant of the CCP, and his populace hates that about him. Even the people that supported him hate that aspect.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what he's going to do to keep his people under wraps. You know? Murder them again, I guess.
Yeah, just
just
murder everyone.
Keep murdering everyone like he likes to.
Yeah, crazy
anyway.
stuff. Oh yeah, we promised you a meme, so here we go. Here's the meme.
Let it play us out.
Supposed to have a meme there. Give me a second. I'll have to. Let me get there. Okay, memes.
It's just a picture.
It's just a picture meme.
We thought it made us cackle.
You want to read it out?
When Stalin took a year to kill 3 million, but you managed to kill 45 million in 5 years. I am speed. And that is what we'll play you out with. Sorry, we went kind of long, but we'll see you next week.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, you are a part of something very important here. Something incredibly important.
Something no one else is doing.
It's what we're doing. What you're doing is being part of a discussion that needs to be had.
Yes.
Thank you so
much. Thanks
much.
for not being scared.
And thank you for joining us. You're all fantastic.
Yes.
Awesome people out there. We can't wait to see you in the next one. Tomorrow, my video is going to be about why the housing bubble in China doesn't burst. This crazy bubble that's just been growing and growing and growing. You know, home sales went up 41% in 2020.
It's speculation, too.
Yeah, 40 in Shenzhen. And it's now become the most expensive city in China. I mean, it always kind of was.
Yeah.
But around 9,400, 9,500 per square meter. Not square meter. That's like a yearly annual salary for someone in China working in that city in a normal job for a square meter.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So yes, come in tomorrow for that one.
And if you want to check out my video I put out yesterday about China's dangerously sexy trends. Which
for some reason has Mao Zedong as the thumbnail sometimes.
It was, yeah. They're really screwing with that video. So I appreciate some support. It's about the skinny challenges that Chinese women keep doing on social media.
Yeah. Anyway, and you can look forward to another ADVChina on Monday and Worthless Whips on Tuesday and all the rest of the stuff. Cannot wait to see you later. And I won't cut myself off this time, so